Hey, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Hey, can y'all unmute yourself real quick, just because I want to make sure I can hear you okay? I could not hear the last one.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I cannot. Okay.
No.
Second to fix that. I don't know why my computer likes to do that, but that is okay. Okay. Give me just 1 second, guys. Apparently y'all can hear me, but I cannot hear you. 1 sec. Launch meeting, open. Okay. Ooh. Does that have a really bad echo?
Yep.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. It's just gonna have to come from my iPhone, and then I'll be able to see with my laptop, so it's gonna be great. How is everyone? Y'all feel free to unmute yourself, show yourself on the video. Let's have a little conversation, and let's make sure that my camera and everything is working.
It was a great weekend, Katie. Busy,
Okay.
but great.
Perfect, good. I'm glad that it was great. Did anyone do anything fun? I did not.
I thought it was your birthday weekend.
No, that's in a week and a half.
Oh, what was I thinking? Okay. Sorry.
No, I don't know, but who gets to have their one-on-one on my birthday? Tamara, Robert, and Ebony. You're so lucky. You could just spend my birthday with
Yay! I'm on the road. I had to go check out a lot for a client.
Good. By all means.
I might mute myself so you don't hear my car noise, okay?
Yeah, you're good. Is that the buyer that that wants a lot in downtown Atlanta?
Yeah. So I just took a look at this one. He doesn't want anything that is near like departures for the airport. He doesn't want to hear airplanes. So I think this one might be a little bit too close, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a challenge.
We're fixing to find out. Okay, awesome. There's one lady who was calling, maybe she's having trouble getting in, and as soon as I text her, then we will get started today, y'all. Group coaching on. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna do a screen share because I kind of like how we've been doing the PowerPoint now, just to have all the information there. So if you're on your computer, that should be totally fine. If you are on your phone, if you swipe all the way to the left, you should be able to see what we are talking about. Does anyone need anything before I start sharing my screen? Y'all good? Lovely. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do a little bit of this. Can you see the pre-list kit and listing presentation PowerPoint graphic? Thumbs up? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Eric. Okay, lovely. So I'm also going to make sure that I can see the chat, just in case y'all type anything. So feel free to, whenever I ask a question, just unmute yourself and jump in, or type it in the chat. I have that up as well. So, okay, lovely. So the pre-list kit and listing presentation is super important, especially because so many of y'all have listing appointments this week. I know someone's on one right now, so that's awesome. Okay, make sure that you have scheduled your July one-on-one, please. Looking at our list, I think I think all of y'all have at least your first July 1 scheduled. So awesome. Thank you for being so great and on top of it. I sent everyone out. Sometimes I do it in the group, just as the listserv for productivity coaching, and sometimes I do it individually. So this past, I think, Friday, I sent out individually to everyone some of the same information, but the top part was different for everyone based on what's going on with your business. So you should know from that PC Weekly email that I sent on Friday, whether or not you have scheduled your one-on-one. Let's see. Okay, so here is our July schedule. The August one will be coming out in a couple weeks. I already have one of our 6 group topics. So in true even numbered Monday form, we have the 3 different topics today: pre-list kit and listing presentation, followed by inspection report and amendment to address concerns, followed by for sale by owner and expired scripts. Now on July 13th, that is next Monday, that's a week from today, there is a difference. We are going to be doing campaigns for an hour and a half as one group. So we're not doing groups A, B, and C. And I'm going to have to remind everyone of this a couple times, I think. We're not doing groups A, B, and C. Next Monday, everyone is together from 12 to 1:30, and we're going to be going over campaigns. So campaigns are they're free to you because they're already created in KW Command. And then you can put them on social media. They're drip campaigns. There's a bunch of different good stuff going on that I want y'all to utilize because it's free to us. So we'll be going over that 12 to 1:30, all as one group next Monday. The following Monday, back on the even schedule, we have the topics listing checklist. So we'll also be talking to Churchville Group about their inputting system that they have there that we can utilize. At 1 p.m., we're going over financials and loans. So how is a conventional different from an FHA, different from a VA, for both your buyer as well as the seller, the agents, the loan officer, etc., and then appraisals. And then on July 27th, it is our normal odd-numbered Monday Group ABC schedule. Questions? Good. I'll make sure that y'all get plenty of updates because we do have that change coming next Monday. Okay, reminder, on the weekends, as much as I love y'all, and I know that y'all love your clients, we all know that there's a work-life balance to be had. And if you are working 24/7, how are you going to be able to service your clients? So just want y'all to be reminded that there's an agent on call for Friday evenings through Sunday. Please, please, please utilize this person. You will have the Market Center sends an email with the name and their phone number. I send out the email on the Friday weekly update emails with the name and the phone number of the agent on call. And then it gets posted in the Facebook group as well, both the KWPR as well as the PC program group. So please utilize that resource. Questions? Fabulous. Okay, Ignite is coming up on July 20th. It is Monday through Thursday for 3 weeks. Please let me know if y'all need that. Let Cara or I know if you need that and need to register. And then last time I mentioned Bold Pivot is coming back. It was originally coming back, I think, mid-July through early August. It is now actually, they changed it. It's for the month of August. It's 4 weeks long, 2 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I believe it's 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Begins August 4th. It's only $99. The link is on the Facebook groups to register or just Google it. Okay, so to today's topic, pre-list kit. So feel free to unmute yourself, type in the chat, I have it open. Why do we send a pre-list kit? Who has ever sent a pre-list kit?
I've never sent one, but I would think to get the client prepared.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jamie. So it's all about preparation for your listing appointment. Perfect. So we send a pre-list kit mainly so that we can share with them any information hopefully we go ahead and answer some questions they may have. It tells them about us, it tells them about KW, a little bit about the listing process, etc. Because we want the listing appointment to be all about them, all about their house, and all about the questions that we need to be face-to-face to answer, the objection handlers that we need to overcome, etc. So it is to be informative. It's also to help cut down on time on the listing presentation. How do we send a pre-list kit? There's a couple answers, but I prefer one.
Email?
Courier?
Sorry.
Oh wait, I think I heard both of them. I heard email, yeah, and then Jeff, did you say courier?
I did, or personally deliver.
Perfect. Yeah. So I prefer for y'all to courier it. It can also be emailed. So if it is a seller that lives here in the Atlanta metro area, it's basically like Uber. Is it called Roadie? It's like Uber, but for like parcels. You can send it in an envelope. Looks very professional. I would very much suggest that for any higher priced listing, just for the professionalism that comes along with it. It can be emailed, and I guess you will have to do that, especially if they live out of the area. So courier, email, those are going to be the best. If you email it, it does look better for it to be as a PDF and not as a Word document. So I'm going to put in I've shared this before with y'all, but I just put in the chat the website that I love for turning anything into a PDF or PDF into anything. You can merge and split and blah, 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 all the other things that I don't know what it means. So I put that link in the chat for y'all. Okay, what is in the pre-list kit?
Your marketing plan, what you're going to do for the client and for their house, how you're going to sell it, comps.
Love it. So I would not put comps. Everything else that you said though, I loved. So it's including, where's my slide? There it is. So it's an about me, you the agent. It's your stats about our market center and Keller Williams in general and our great stats, pricing suggestions. There's a graphic I'll show you on an example where it shows when it's priced right, it sells really quickly. Marketing examples, disclosures for them that you would like them to have filled out when you get there. So things like the seller's disclosure, if it's old enough to lead-based paint, if it's in an HOA, the community association, you can go ahead and send those over to them and they'll already have them filled out. Typically, when I get there and they've already filled out those papers, I'm like, okay, guess mama got the listing, because they already went through the trouble of filling all that stuff out. Like we're pretty much good. There's very few things to kind of talk about at that point. You might as well be like, sign here, press hard, 3 copies. If they have not filled them out yet, isn't necessarily that you haven't gotten the listing. They might not have known prior to the appointment. I'll always call, make sure that they got it. If they didn't, and it's like a last minute thing, that's when I will email it to them. I'll also figure out why they didn't, because I just had to pay to print out that stuff in color and then ship it to them. And then I'll ask them, to have all the disclosures filled out. And I'll ask if there's anything else that they need at that time. Sometimes they'll have a question or two, just you want to make sure that they are ready to go and sign with you as soon as you go over the comps and talk about the listing process. So I am going to unshare this screen now, and I'm going to share a couple documents with y'all. They are all available to you. I can put them in the Facebook group. You know how I have attached files before? I think a lot of y'all have seen that. I will make sure that y'all have access to these if you need them. So the first one that I'm going to share my screen with is, come on. Where did it go? Oh goodness. Where did it go? Okay, can y'all see this Word document?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And does it say a guide to selling your home and then it has client name 1, client name 2?
No.
It's just
The listing
So-
presentation.
Mine just says KW Keller Williams, and it's, yeah, just a Word document.
Okay, stand by, stand by. Not the best millennial. Okay. Okay. Does it say a guide to selling your home, client 1, client 2?
Yes.
You can be taught. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to, I want y'all to see all the pages without it being kind of obnoxious. Okay, I have to zoom out so that you can see the whole thing. So this is what was in your Ignite book. If y'all haven't taken Ignite yet, class starts July 20th. I can still share with you this document. So it's a little old school, if I'm being honest with you, and yet I've used it and it's totally fine. So prepared for, here's where you would put your client's name in, compliments of your name. If you do not change that before you send this to them, you're gonna look like a doofus. So please make sure that you do that. You can also put in the address or personalize it however you want. This is your business. I'm just going to give you a template. You do whatever you want with it after that. So on the second page, it talks a little bit about what you're going to do to service the clients. So hopefully this answers a lot of their questions on, well, what are you going to do, for me? Not necessarily what are you going to do to get the home sold? It talks a little bit more about that and the level of customer service that you're going to provide. So coordinating the home showing process. Showing time does that. But hey, take credit for it because you pay for showing time in some way. So I don't touch this page at all. It's already kind of made there for you. I think that they put everything in there that you really need to have in there. Second page, it's getting ready to list. So I really like this one because it goes over price is based on condition and location. And there's a couple different factors that they need to be aware of. And this really helps to set up that conversation when you are there in person, because you're not going to give them a price until you're there in person, right? This is going to help set up that conversation and hopefully start to combat any issues that they have with pricing it properly for the market. So it talks a little bit about the competition. Right now, they really don't have a whole lot. And yet, if you're doing condos and there's 3 condos available in your building right now, how are you going to stand out? So it kind of speaks to that. Again, it's just all about answering questions ahead of time. Get ready to sell. So this is about price. This is the graphic that I love. So the percent of buyers looking at your property, if it's priced correctly at market value, 60% of people are going to see it. That's awesome. This is where I'll have a conversation. I can reference this during the appointment if they are giving me a little bit of flack about listing it too high. This is where I ask them for permission to slightly underprice their home, because that way I can ensure that the maximum number of eyes get put on it. We have the maximum amount of traffic, and hopefully that generates a multiple offer situation that bids up the price. I personally have a couple examples of that, of listings that I've done, where I'll pull them up on the multiple listing service. I'll say, see how we listed this at $350? And then I'll scroll down and it will say the sales price was $355. It was 101% of list price. So that's very helpful. If y'all don't have your own, like Zach Rowe, you got like 20 grand over, right? One of your listings. So beautiful, perfect example. Kenneth just got one under contract for 100% of sales price with no closing costs asked for. So that's going to be a perfect example for y'all to use in the future. If you want to use my examples, I don't care, use my examples. That's totally fine. Then it's going to talk about condition. So this is a little bit about staging, not in the sense of bringing furniture in and paying for that. It's a little bit more about how can we condition the property properly in terms of making sure that it's decluttered, X, Y, and Z. Interrupt me if y'all have questions. I don't see any in the chat yet. And then it's going to have questions for you. So sometimes they fill this out, more often than not, they don't. Typically, these are questions that I've already asked for them on the phone, or I'll just mention in our appointment. If they have this filled out, that's when you feel a little bit more confident when you walk into the appointment. I didn't change any of this on mine. I left all that the same. This is the one where it says it's optional. Personally, I think that they need to know a little bit more about you. If they're not in your sphere, and it's not a family member or a friend or repeat client, whatever, I do think you need to sell yourself a little bit as well. So I'll show you my example of how I filled this out. If I'm being honest with you though, I think that this is about, mine's at least a year old. So I can't promise you it's super updated, and yet I've personalized mine. So I'll give you an example. What question, and then of course, you can have an entire page if you want of client reviews. Great example of why you should get them on closing day when your peeps are super happy. Get a client review. There are a couple different ways to capture that online. There's some services that will send it out for them to fill out. But what questions do y'all have? Feel free to unmute or type in the chat and I'll show you my specific example. All right, so that one we did. Let me show you mine.
So I'm sorry, Katie. So you prefer, so we should really get them to, when you say, anyway, so when we get their testimonials, do you want them to do it to Facebook, or do you prefer, how do you prefer that your clients do yours?
Whatever. I would say Facebook is great. Google is also really good. I think those are supposed to be the top two ways that people will find you. If they do it on Facebook, make sure it's on your business page, not your personal page, so that it's linked to the business. So yeah, I would say maybe the day after closing, a week after closing, or any great milestone, maybe they won the multiple offer situation. You can send them an email with the link. Hey, so happy that you're so excited. I'm really happy for you. Would you mind, sharing a review on my page? And you can send them a link. Ask them when they're happy, when they're on that high. Okay, I think I've done this right. Maybe not. Can y'all see a Word document where it has my name on it now? Wait, I'm getting conflicting answers.
It might be at the bottom of the page. I can only see the first tab.
Okay, in that case, I'm not doing it correctly. Stand by. Okay, let's do this one more time. It's going to be great. Teaching material. Okay. Let's try this again. Okay, now can you see a Word document? I don't know anything if y'all are not answering. So can you see Word?
I only see the Keller Williams letterhead.
Okay,
now
there it is. Now
yeah, there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, thanks, darlings. Okay, so this was for the Angela Bells, and I put my name in there, obviously. I left this page alone. It's all about you. I think it's great. I left this part alone about getting ready to list. The pricing part is perfect. Their house was actually the one that we listed at $350 and went under contract at $350 or sold for $355. So they listened to me. Yeah, so I think I left all of this alone, and then here's my about me. So you can put a little slogan in there. Apparently a year ago, my slogan was committed to getting the results you deserve. That's adorable, I think. For my buyers, it's finding the home you can't live without. Get it? Because you can't live without it because you love it. You can't live without it because you need a home. Haha, I thought that was so funny. Don't steal it. In my expertise, I gave a little bit of information about me. Technology, I think I just copy and pasted that from something with Keller Williams, if I'm being honest with you. I haven't seen this in a while. I don't know. I guess these are good answers to it. No one's ever told me that they're not good answers. So there's a little bit that y'all can take from. And then I do have 2 client reviews. What questions do y'all have? Oh, sorry. Heck no, I do not do anything with the commission at all. I go in there with 6% already filled out on there. Assume the close. I do not talk about that unless they ask about it. And then, Zach, I don't know what you mean for both agents, not just yourself.
So with your
It was also for it was a question about commissions, but also any other potential expenses they may have, like talking about like if someone asks for closing costs or anything like that. Is that a discussion you have with them, or you just wait?
Oh, I got you. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so what I like to do during I'm going to stop sharing real quick. What I like to do during the listing appointment is go over a seller net sheet. So what that looks like is if we sell at this price, for an example, they may ask for this much in closing costs. Here is your realtor fees. I do not say what the percentage is. I just say realtor fees, and the number that I have happens to be the 6%. And then I preface all of this, all the transaction with, they may ask us for a couple things after the inspection. They may ask us for a home warranty, could be $650. I'll subtract $650. And then I show them basically what that bottom dollar comes out to be. And then I say, look, I don't know how much you owe on your property, but what you can do is subtract that number, what you owe on your mortgage, from this number, and that's going to give you a really great idea of what you'll net. And that typically, they typically like that. So also, the seller does not pay the buyer's agent. The seller pays 6% to the listing agent, and then the listing agent pays whatever percentage, typically 3%, to the buyer's agent. So just an FYI, they're like, well, how much do I have to pay the other agent? Great news. You don't pay them, I do. Not that that would really help, but there you go. And then the last thing I did want to show y'all real quick is in terms of the pre-listing packet, there is a really great example. I think I Googled this, if I'm being honest with you, but I do want to share one last one with you because, come on. Can you see a PDF that has Keller Williams in the top right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Third time's a charm. So this is, I don't even know who this person is. I literally Googled it. So this has a checklist. This is what they're giving to the agent. They're telling them what they're going to have to fill out. What does she have in here? So I guess this is her.
Katie, the only thing I'm seeing is it says pre-listing packet. It's not showing anything else. Like the things you're talking about.
It's not scrolling.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, stand by. In that case, you know what? It's great. We're just going to move ahead because I want to talk about the listing presentation because that's more important. I will put those things in the Facebook group so that y'all can have the blank one. If you took Ignite, you should already have it, and yet if you don't, then great, you're going to have one. So I am going to go back to the.
Hey, Katie.
Ma'am.
You said the pre-listing kit somewhere. Where are you gonna put it so we can pick it up?
Oh, in the Facebook group, I can add it as a file, and then y'all can see it from there. Mm-hmm. Okay, y'all do see the PowerPoint now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can't wait till we can do this in person again, and we can be on the screen in the training room. Okay. Questions, ahas. What do you need for your pre-list part of this? Anything? Anyone? We're good? Clear? Perfect. Okay, so the listing presentation, this is awesome because you have two really great templates of everything you would ever need. In fact, in my opinion, it's very overkill, and yet you have two really great templates available on command. I'm going to show y'all how to get there, that you can pick and choose what slides you want from them. They're fully customizable. You can put in the names, you can change the photos, you can change the address. I mean, it's very fabulous. So you may want to write down what this the first green bullet point says, because that's going to be the directions. It's a little confusing in my opinion on how to get there in command. It took me a little while to find it. So I'll walk you through it. I'm going to screen share with the on the website, but it's the designs. Then you're going to click the plus. Then you're going to go to print, hit next, and then we're going to go to listings. So just write that down for right now, and you're going to get an idea. And then depending on the client's personality, their disc profile, etc., you may want to, and I would suggest taking out some of the slides. It's a little lengthy. If you took Bold in person, Bold 2.0, we went over it. It took a long time. And you have the option to do it digitally or print it out. And so depending on your client and their personality, you may want to do one or the other. Oops, okay, we haven't gotten to that part yet. Perfect. So I'm going to go to the KW Command website and show y'all step by step how to do it. Okay, can you see my command? Can you see my command?
No, I can't.
Oh, God bless America. It says that it's paused.
Yeah.
Resume share. Can you see my command?
I can, yes.
Yes.
Wait. Oh, okay, great. Okay. So we're going to go down here to listings. No, we're going to go to designs. See, it's very confusing. Designs on the left. And what y'all may want to do is, if you're on your computer, put half of your computer window as the video so that you can follow along, and you may want to have your web browser up in the other half. So designs, and then the plus, and then print, and then next. Wait for your internet to work. Okay, and then over here, this is going to be like, this is going to blow y'all's mind just how much stuff is actually available to you. You have 134 different things for your app. You have, I don't even know what this number adds up to, X number of things for listings. If you want to do stuff for buyers, you have buyers there. I mean, it's crazy how many templates we have. So we're going to go to listings and then listing presentation. Is everyone good? Are y'all following? Okay, cool.
Yes.
So there's like a more modern one, and then there's the classic one. The modern one, if you print it out, is going to eat up all the ink. So we're going to go with the classic one for now. Celeste goes, yeah, that's amazing, girl. I'm telling you, the fact that all of this crap is art stuff, all this great stuff is already made for us is awesome. Then if you have it just listed, we have door hangers, bifolds, you have postcards already made for you. Don't go look at that yet. Pay attention to the listing presentation. And then later today, go get your mind blown, because there's so much good stuff on here. So listing presentation template, I'm going to do classic just so that I don't waste all the ink printing out the modern one. And then after your internet wants to work, you can go to each of these pages. They've made a bunch for you, and you can completely change it out. So you can click on here, you can change, maybe you don't want this to say listing presentation template. Maybe you want to say, Katie is awesome. I mean, you can make it say whatever you want. Now, there's an instructions page. If you print out the instructions page or leave it in there for your presentation, and your seller thinks that you are less than intelligent, that's on you. I can't help you. So remember, not all of these are going to get printed out and left in your presentation, okay? So this one is great to leave in here. It's about your clients. So it says a custom consultation exclusively prepared for Maria and Chris Roberts. Well, I have people that are John and Hope there. They are actually my friends. We're friends on Facebook. They're repeat clients at this point. So I could get away with taking this photo out and putting in a picture of their family, like from their Christmas card or something. If you don't know them, do not do that because you'll be very creepy to them and they will kick you out of your house. So I don't know what kind of photo you want to put here. If you think that this mother-daughter duo is cute, you may leave it whatever you want. This we can customize to put in either that Keller Williams Peachtree Road logo, or you can go ahead and type it in. And then obviously here, first name, I'm going to put in Katie. I know how shocking that is to you. And then I'm going to put in my own headshot. So then once you click out of it, perfect. So when you're clicking around, it's going to go to images, text, etc., where you can change things. Whenever you want to go back to seeing all of the pages, you go to templates, and then you can scroll through to the next. So this is, I guess, the table of contents right there. There's a lot of pages. So if you have a high C, maybe leave them in there and leave it with them. And when you're in there, only go through a few. If you have a high D, don't even leave them in there. Take out what you don't need. But this is going to be for, I don't know what just happened. Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, great. Don't click the back button because it's going to go back to this front page. And yet, I think if I double clicked, it went to change the address. My bad, y'all. Just click once, I guess, to change things. It's a little finicky. There we go. Okay, so you can put you can change the address, you can put a picture of their home. That's less creepy, putting a photo of their home instead of their family. It also is gonna have in here the information about their neighborhood. So you can go to your Kelly app, you can find the average square foot for a neighborhood, you can find the average number of bedrooms and bathrooms. That's what it has here, but fully customize this stuff. Obviously, you probably are not selling a home in Barton Hills. So
Katie,
my neighborhood.
Katie, where'd you say you could go to get that information?
The Kelly app. It looks like.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So I'm in Rocket Heights. I have, so change it all. Change it for your peeps. It's going to look really, really professional. It is going to be a little time consuming. And yet, if you're up against other agents and you come bringing something like this, oof. So then here's a little bit more about their neighborhood. This kind of just shows you your knowledge on the area and the research that you've done. If I'm being honest with you, that is not going to be high on the list of slides to keep in there, especially if you have a high D. But there you go. This is where you'll put in the comps. So I do like that you have a little shot really quickly of the comps that you're going to use along with their basic information. Because when I go through comps, I literally, if I'm being honest with you, I just print out the buyer agent sheet where it's the little photo here, the bed and bath, and the schools, and then the description, and then all the stuff under that. Similar to what you would bring a client if you were showing them a property. That's what I bring to them. So this, I think, looks very professional. You see all four comparatively right there, and then you can go through them a little bit more individually after that. And then they have some things similar to the pre-list kit where they would, your needs come first, this, that, and the other about the customer service. So someone said, what type of paper would you print this on? Oh, I'm doing regular printer paper, baby. Now, if it's luxury and you're a KW luxury agent, that is where I would say there is a different level of marketing for the luxury homes. And if you're not a luxury agent, I would say to pair up with someone who is. My first luxury listing was a little over a year ago, and it was 1.7 million. And that is not something to mess around with. So, and I was going up against another agent. So I asked Jennifer Barnes this is before I was on their team. I said, hey, you're a great luxury agent. Do you want to go 50-50 on this with me? And she was like, okay. And I was like, okay. So we got to use all of her luxury stuff. So for your regular under $750 homes, printer paper. Here's the process. This is a really great visual for people who want to know, okay, what's going to happen. So I'll zoom in so that you can see it. It goes over literally every single step. If they like, they can check through it. Then you can go over a little bit about the app and things like that. If they're tech peeps, honestly, I only really talk about the technology if they're in IT or something with technology for work. But like I said, there's a lot of slides in here, a lot of slides, and you do not have to put all of them in there. Here's one that you would think you would want in here, and yet when it talks about finding your buyer, this is talking about where the buyers come from. The internet has a way higher chunk than real estate agent. Personally, in my opinion, I think that this makes us look less useful. I would not include that. That's just me. This is your business. You do whatever you want. And then like yard sign, open house actually only sells 1% of homes. But anyway, that's one that maybe you don't leave in. But media plan maybe the best one to put out there in terms of like technology and whatnot, because you can talk about the multiple listing service, you can talk about Facebook boosts and campaigns, you can talk about the Rawls group and how you have access. You can start to pre-market it before it even hits the market, yada yada. But there's look. There's so many pages in here. Just keeps on going. And then at the very end, it's your contact info. What questions do y'all have about the pre-list kit or the listing presentation?
I have a question, Katie.
Yeah.
And you probably went over this. So when you go in for the listing appointment, you bring your presentation and you bring your exclusive listing agreement. Do you bring the property disclosure too, or do you wait for that?
Perfect. Great question. I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can see y'all's faces. Awesome. So yes, when I go to a listing appointment, I have a folder with me. You can buy them for like, I think $1.50 or something at the front desk. So this is definitely something that you want to prep for in advance. So in my folder, let me see if I have one with me. Maybe not. I think I just used my last one last weekend. So in my folder, they're going to have, you open it up, right? Over here, you have the little cutout so that you can put your business card right there. And then in this side, if I'm looking at it, it's the right side. I'm going to have all the disclosures that I want them to fill out, regardless of if I have already sent it to them. Maybe they didn't print it out. Maybe they tossed it, whatever. I want it filled out there while I'm there. So I'm going to have the disclosures. I'm going to have an example of a blank purchase and sale contract so that I can go over with them if they have any questions, especially if it's their first time selling. Or even if it's just their first time selling in Georgia, but they've done other homes. I want them to know what an offer is going to look like and go over that with them. And then on the other flap, the one that when you open it up, it's on the left, I put in there the comps, and then that seller net sheet that I talked about so that I can pull those out and we talk about them, and I leave all the other ones in the folder for the time being. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? So you're so welcome. What other questions do y'all have? So let's talk a little bit about the listing appointment itself. So whenever you make that appointment, you want to make sure that you arrive a little early, just because realtors are known for having that realtor time kind of lateness to them. So arrive a little early. Whenever you knock, ring the doorbell, whatever, take a step back. If you open the door and I'm right here, you're going to be like, yo, too much. So skirt, take a step back. Whenever you walk in at the very beginning, thank them for inviting you. Let them know that you're excited to see the home. I set my things down at kitchen table, dining table. It truly needs to be a proper table, not a coffee table. I did go to a bachelor pad where they didn't have a table because they only ate on the couch. And I was like, okay, this is where we're gonna have to do it. So, however, I'm not trying to like sit on the edge of the couch and lean over a coffee table and try to talk to you, right? Like it really needs to be more like we are making our main decision at the family meeting area, right? So that's typically the dinner table. I'm gonna set my things down. I'm gonna have the folder that I have for them, and I have a blank piece of paper on top of that, and I have a pen in my hand. So what I'm gonna do is ask them, and this may not be how you are told in Ignite. This is just the Katie example. Run your business however you want, okay? Just here to give you suggestions. Because a lot of agents are told to have them fill out a seller questionnaire while they go personally tour the home. I do not like to do that. I like for the seller to show me the home. I've really never had someone take too long because honestly, they're just excited to talk about comps and the price as you are to get out of the appointment with the signed listing agreement. So I don't think it takes too long. This is just the Katie Staples method. So I say, hey, will you give me a quick tour of the home and please let me know any items that you have updated since your ownership. And please let me know of anything that's in need of repair, especially if you're gonna do it prior to listing the house. So I wanna know what have you updated? And then I wanna know what needs repair and what of those items are you gonna do here soon. So I'm taking notes. My whole blank paper is gonna be notes on what type of flooring, what type of kitchen appliances, kitchen counters, kitchen cabinets. Because if I've never been in the house, I've listed a lot of my friends' homes that I had been in a couple times and I could do it from memory. You can't do that all the time if it's the first time you've been in the house. So make notes of things. Maybe you have a column of suggestions you're already gonna have for them, decluttering. If they have a little bit of money before listing, maybe they get rid of that dark red paint in the dining room kind of thing that was very popular in the 90s and 2000s. So make notes of things like that. Whenever they say, oh yeah, the water heater is X number of years old, get that information. And I just write down everything. I write down the condition of the carpet, etc. So make as many notes as you can, ask as many questions as you can. That should take, depending on if it's a 2-bedroom condo, 5 minutes. If it's a 5-bedroom, 4,000 square foot home, that's gonna be more like 10, maybe even 15 minutes, especially if I had a listing that 6 bedrooms and they had like surround sound and speakers and blah, blah, blah. So that one took a little bit longer, but that should be a small chunk of your listing appointment. Then when you're done, gather back at the table. You do want to be there with both decision makers, both signers, anyone that's on the deed, as well as if there's another decision maker that's not on the deed. So sometimes it's in one spouse's name and not the other spouse's name because they owned it pre-marriage, and yet they're 50-50 in that decision-making process from here on out. Maybe a younger person purchased it with their parent, and so the parent needs to be present to make decisions. Or if the parent lives out of state, I would always call, introduce myself, and answer any questions that the parent has prior to meeting in person with the person at the house. So Okay, so that's when I'm going to go through the paper that we just went through, the listing presentation, or I'm going to do it digitally. I'm an old school kind of person. When I get to the comps, I always do the solds. That gives them a general idea of a price. Then I go through what's currently under contract, because that means that's what people are buying right now because they're under contract right now. And then I'll go through the actives because that's the current competition. The solds will give you an idea of what things had sold for. I really try to only go 3 months back. Sometimes I have to go as far as 6 just to stay in a good tight geographic area. The pendings and the active under contracts, I like to note how many days it was on the market before it went under contract. Because if it was on the market for 4 days or less, very good chance there was multiple offers, or if there was only one offer, they got list price, maybe above list price. That has a whole lot to do with what it's going to be selling for, because we don't know what it's under contract for. We only know what it was advertised for. You only know what it's going to sell for after it sells. And then when we go through the actives, I like to ask them if they've already been in the house. And most of the time, I'm complimented most on the fact that I do go preview the actives, because most people have not been in the active comps. Most of them have seen it, they've driven by it, they might know who owns it, but they've never been inside of it. So when I memorize really well, so I'm sitting across the table from them, right? They're here. I will take the piece of paper that has all the comp info. I've highlighted, the price. I've highlighted anything in particular that's important on that sheet, and I'll turn it over, and upside down, I'll be able to basically read them. I memorize really well, and I go, this one is great. Here's the thing. Their kitchen's not as updated as yours. Their basement is finished. Blah, 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 and I can rattle off facts, and I say, so they're listed at 320. I think that yours is pretty comparable to that. We may even be able to push it to 325. And then I just look at them. And typically that kind of confidence and being able to speak very freely and well researched on the active comps is what impresses them the most. I also had someone that claimed that their house wasn't as great as another one. And I'm like, no, have you been in this house? They're like, no. I'm like, it's awful, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And they're like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I went and saw it yesterday. You think I'm going to list your house without seeing what your competition is? They had no problem signing that listing agreement. So I would say most of my wins in a multiple agent interview situation have come from not lowering my commission and not from what the marketing is going to look like. It actually comes from knowing what I'm talking about when it comes to pricing and the comps. So I would practice going over those. What questions do y'all have?
Katie, when you were saying before about walking through and taking notes, and you said you mark down or you take note of what type of appliance, what do you mean? Do you mean the brand, or whether it's stainless steel, white, or black? How do you, what do you think about?
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was my question. I just wasn't sure. Did you mean the type, the brand name, or what they looked like?
So almost always it's going to be the color, because stainless steel is going to be preferred over the other two. And then I would say that the other two are preferred based on what the rest of the kitchen colors look like. So stainless always trumps black and white appliances. And then if it is a higher end home and there are name brands, that's not going to be your average home most likely. But if it is a Wolf range, aka it has those little red knobs on the front, the jewelry, right? That's probably an $8,000 to $12,000 stove, if not more. So those are some things that you might want to note on your higher end properties. Types of refrigerators can be very well known as well. Like, what's the one over that we had in Buckhead? There's a couple different refrigerator brands that are that are nice to know. And then of course, in some new construction or in some flip properties, people will put in like the LG smart technology ones where it's like a touchpad stove and things like that, or like the refrigerator that will tell you the weather. I don't know, that's too fancy for me. But Sub-Zero, yeah, good. Sub-Zero is one of them. There are others. Anyway, if they're the Ooh La La brands, definitely make a note of that. Make a note of the kitchen counters, so Formica and laminate, not things that you're going to be bragging about. Granite, granite, marble, quartz. Thank you. I was like, what's the other one that starts with a Q? Good. Good. Yeah. So Amanda says Viking. That's a range. Woo! If you got Viking.
KitchenAid.
Well, go ahead.
And KitchenAid.
KitchenAid, I don't know that. I don't know that that's necessarily like a luxury brand. We're talking like people shell out.
Like Bosch. Bosch is pretty nice.
Bosch is nice.
Yeah.
Miele is really nice.
Okay, I've never heard of that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So like any of those name brands where you know that it's worth a pretty penny, and it's very important when you're walking through what appliances are staying with the home. Not everyone leaves their washer and dryer. That's pretty common for them to take. Not everyone leaves their fridge, and not everyone leaves their stove. I've had one seller bring the fridge. I've had two sellers take their stove. They really liked their stove. It's a little weird to me, but that's fine.
So is it not true, Katie, that you have to close with the stove?
So yes, they put a different one in.
Okay.
They put like a $500 one, and they took their $2,000 one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, I think even with conventional, with cash, honestly, I don't know. I think that you don't have to have a stove, but with even conventional, you do have to have, I think it's a range. I don't know. It could be an oven or a range. Could be both of them. Range being the stovetop, because they're not always together. Mine aren't together. In my house, I have the top, and then I have an oven. Other questions?
So I have one.
Okay.
I have a listing appointment now on Wednesday.
Okay.
This community, the Swanee community that I've been telling you about, they all know each other really well, and they have very high opinion of where their house should be.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. Do you have any other tips? Because when I showed the comps to their neighbor when I sold their house, it worked fine. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other tips on how to maybe ease people into the idea that their home may not be like the $800,000 dream home they thought they had?
Sure. Well, and I know that in the neighborhood you're talking about, they're clearly not getting anything close to 800. No, it's a nice neighborhood in the fours. I mean, the high fours probably. So I like to ask a lot of questions and turn it on them, because if I'm telling them that their house isn't worth what they think it is, who's the butthead in that situation? It's me. It's not the market. It's not the fact that their home's just not worth it. I'm the butthead. So I like to turn it on them and say, let me ask you, based on these, and you can look at the solds or you can look at the actives, but put them all in front of them, right? That's why I like to print things out so I can see multiple at one time. I would say, let me ask you, if you were a buyer, would you purchase this home at $450 or your home at $470? And then let them explain. I feel like you can set up questions to get the answer that you want in a strategic way where they self-realize. And so sometimes when they self-realize it, it makes a much stronger impact than when you just tell it to them, one. And then two, when they hear it coming out of their mouth, it like really solidifies it, if that makes sense. So yeah, 40 years of teaching high school taught me how to do that. What other questions do y'all have? We have 2 more minutes, and then the next class on inspection reports is going to be awesome. Great. Who has sold a listing in here? You can either do the hand raise thing or you can raise your hand. Oh, you're so welcome, Celeste. Okay. Amanda, Zach, Kenneth, just got one under contract. That's awesome.
I have 2 under contract.
Perfect. Beth, you have the Douglasville one and the Norcross?
The McDonough.
McDonough. Okay, that's right. Okay. I knew it was like away from the city.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Okay, sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I love listings mainly because I am very high D and I like to be efficient with my time. And so unless I'm talking about my dog or something else like that. And so I love that listings is a little bit more heavy on the expenses ahead of time and the cost of sale ahead of time, like the sign and the photography, this, that, and the other. I really love that I don't do all the footwork of a buyer's agent. And so I'm going to be really stressing to y'all to go after listings just because I can work 5 listings at once. I had 6 listings a couple weeks ago. I can do 6 listings at once. That's easy peasy. Like, I mean, even if I had 6 listing appointments in 1 week, cool. That's 1 a day. That is nothing. I can't work 6 buyers at the same time. I've done it. I just felt crazy because I can't lead gen while I'm servicing 6 buyers. All you're doing is servicing clients, servicing, going over inspection reports, writing contracts. So I would really stress to be as listing heavy as you can. Okay, with that being said, hooray, we're gonna go on to our next topic. So I'm back to sharing my screen. Can y'all see? I probably didn't do it right. Can y'all see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, great. So this is going to be our 1 p.m. class on inspection reports and the amendment to address concerns. Y'all are so welcome. I will see any of y'all that have other stuff to do. I will see y'all later. Thank you so much for coming. And if you can stay on, if you don't have something else in this chunk of time, this is going to be a very good hour. We have 2 of our preferred vendors on this call. So I see that Cindy with America's Preferred Home Warranty has come on, and I'm just waiting for Jason with Trademark Home Inspections to come on as well. So perfect. Okay, cool. So some of y'all have already seen this, and I apologize, but we're going to go through the same kind of announcements. Please make sure that you have scheduled your July one-on-one. You would know if you have because I either was confirming your day and time in the email that I sent on Friday, or I was asking you to get with me and schedule one. There's only like, I think 2 slots left this week. They fill up fast, which I think is great. And then a reminder about our July schedule. So we have the 3 different topics today. Please note the change from next Monday. We're not going to be in groups A, B, and C for an hour each. We're all going to be together from 12 to 1:30 going over campaigns. Campaigns are those, we used to call them drip campaigns, where they're like, not the newsletter, but like an 8x8, things like that that are auto sent out to your sphere. A great way to stay top of mind. July 20th, we are back in our 3 different topics. So listing checklists. So you have a listing. Now what do? All the things that you'd have to do to get prepared for that. At 1 p.m. is financials and loans, so the different types of loans and what that means for both you, your buyer, your seller, yada, yada. The Supreme peeps are going to join us for that one. And then at 2 p.m., we're going to go over appraisals. So what goes into an appraisal, what factors, everything that you would need to know, especially whenever you want to give your sellers and buyers peace of mind, as well as just sound more educated when talking about that, and then what to do if it doesn't appraise. And then July 27th, we're back in groups A, B, and C. Questions? Good. Lovely. Let me see if Jason is on yet. I don't see him. Okay, cool. Reminder that Friday evenings through Sunday, there's always going to be an agent on call every weekend. Please, please, please utilize this resource. You will get that agent's name and phone number emailed to you both in the weekly like roundup or catch up or whatever it's called that Kayla sends out on Fridays, as well as the one that I send out on Thursday nights or Fridays. And then it's in the Facebook group as well. So please, please, please utilize that resource. Ignite is coming back July 20th. It is Monday through Thursday for 3 weeks. $40 if you want the electronic materials, $80 if you want that big binder. Bold is also coming back. It was announced that it was going to be mid-July through early August. It's actually now going to start August 4th. So it's 4 weeks, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It is $99 compared to the $800 whenever it's live. Great resource to use, especially if you have Tuesday and Thursday afternoons free from 2 to 4. Perfect. And then we're going to go over inspection report. Questions. I'm still waiting for one of our guests to come on. So let me text him really quickly. I don't see him yet. Okay, perfect. So inspection reports, best practice. First, best practice is to get the inspection done as early as possible. So day 1 or day 2 of due diligence. Whenever you get the inspection report back, which is typically within 24 hours, what I would love if y'all set up is a conversation with your buyer that after the inspection sounds like this. You and I are going to be emailed the inspection report either later tonight, tomorrow morning. I would love it if we can go over that separately. Remember that we're looking for broken bones, not bumps and bruises. So if they're not buying a new construction, they're not going to get a perfect house. My house is 1966. Very not perfect. And yet there are concerns, like there's higher concerns, medium concerns, and there's lower level concerns. The inspectors legally have to disclose anything about the house. And it's not just the good, the bad, and the ugly. They also have to report really neutral items, like they take a picture of the label on the water heater, on the HVAC unit, on the furnace, etc. So know that the home inspection is not just out there to get you or to get the seller and things like that. It's mostly there just for informative purposes and let the buyer know what's going on with the house, the condition, good, bad, or ugly. Ask the buyer to make notes of any concerns and questions that they have. When they go through it, I want you to do the same. That's when you can ask any questions of me, of the Facebook group. You can throw out in the chat there whatever questions you may have, and then y'all can go over them together and really stick more to the concerns and the questions that they have. If they're a high C, that may take you a little while. So make sure that you have some time carved out for that. And then after you go through the inspection report, you can schedule any secondary tests. So that could be estimates to get things fixed, replaced, etc. If there's a pest issue, you can go out and get estimates for that. Yada yada. What questions? Oh, good. Jason's here. Jason, welcome. Because look, here's your face. I took this from Facebook. I hope this one's okay.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Jason is with Trademark Home Inspections. Y'all have been in business, what, 6 years?
Yes.
Awesome. Are you still at the beach?
No, got back yesterday. Back to reality a little bit, whatever reality is.
Got you. So Jason, if you want, you can totally share your information in the chat. I didn't know if you wanted to, so I just put in like the office, phone number, website, and then email address. And so y'all, they do the general home inspection, of course. They'll do radon testing. They also do radon mitigation. I have had a couple listings that have come back high, as well as renovations on homes. So that is their scope of work. And then Jason, I'm gonna let you take it from here. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that you can chat. Let me know whenever you want me to pull up those inspection reports that we have ready. And
sure.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing that as well.
If you want to share your screen, you go ahead, whatever you want.
No. I think going probably yours is fine. I'm not real good at doing the screen
I'm not real good
share.
at doing it either.
So, let me see. Hold on. I'm pulling it up here. There we go. So the first one that I'm going to pull up is, this is one we actually did for one of Katie's team members, Dawn, back in March. And so I was listening to sort of the tail end of Katie talking to you guys, and I think that is so great that she used the word the phrase we're looking for, broken bones, and not the bumps and bruises. I mean, Katie, if you can you show that? There you go. All right, so this one that we did for Dawn there, I mean, obviously we're not dealing with new construction, and obviously we're looking at a house that's a little bit older. It's not going to be perfect, and so, your ability and our home inspector's ability to help kind of coach, the buyers through what's realistic about what we're going to find, and then, what you're going to deal with on the flip side of this. This is what a report for us looks like. All right, so if we'll scroll maybe back up just a hair there, Katie, to the front cover page, there you go. So so when you get your report, from Trademark, this is our cover photo. It's going to have, just a general photo of the home, all of the basic, quote unquote, bio and information, the address, the agent. This actually was for Dawn herself. I believe it was an investment property for her. And then some contact information there below, what the weather conditions were like, that sort of stuff. And then from there, we're going to proceed down into what we call the summary part of the inspection. Now, the summary is what we consider to be the summary of the major findings, right? The red items. Okay, and so a red item can be, what we would consider to be a structural issue, a safety issue, an electrical issue, something major that is probably going to require your attention. All right, most of the time. Now, some of this is also industry standards for us, and that's sort of where the inspector is really going to earn his money with you and your client at the end, because he's going to have to explain exactly what these red items are. And then I think it's really important that you allow the inspector, if you're comfortable, to help you sometimes prioritize where these sort of fall, and how important they are. Because for us, some of these are just industry standards that we have to report on. They may not really be major red items. I like to call them pink. It may not be as big an issue as you might think. But so, like, for example, here in the report summary, you've got some significant red issues, like the electrical issue in the attic, some of the venting issues that you'll see with your heat and AC. And then, but if you also notice, the insulation condition, there's an industry standard on how much insulation should be in an attic, but it may not be that big a deal in terms of, having to prioritize that to deal with it before, you go to closing. So, so let's scroll on down. You can see some other issues. This house was sitting on a crawl space. And so I'm actually, hold on a second, I'm pulling up the report itself. Okay, so I'm with you. Crawl space.
You tell me how far down to scroll.
What's that?
You just tell me how far down to scroll.
Yeah, I'm on page, actually on page 2, the last of the red items in the crawl space, dealing with framing. Let me stop right here. If you look at the very bottom of what says page 1, it says framing. The first one is a really big one for us. Katie sat in on our top 10 deal killers that our owner Cal Couch did. I think it was late fall, or could have been midwinter. But anyway, we don't use the M word at at Trademark. And if
They
you
may
look,
not know the word you're talking about.
yeah, well, we use a different M word.
It rhymes with mold.
Yeah, the word that obviously we're talking about here is mold. Because we don't really know what it is. I mean, we may know and we may have a pretty good idea, but the word mold is scary to people for good reasons. But we don't know if it's mold, so we're going to use the phrase microbial growth or bio growth. So if you see, this is at the bottom of page 1, where it says crawl space, page 33, item 2, framing. This is caused by presence of excess moisture in the construction materials. So, is it mold? Could be. Is it the horrifying black mold that everybody is, makes people nervous? Maybe not. So we're gonna. There's so many types of them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna refer that out to a qualified environmental contractor to run that test. Because what we don't want to do is, create panic in your buyer, because we've seen people walk, over just the word mold. Like they just shut it down, for whatever reasons that they may have. I'm going to come back to the efflorescence. That's the second item on that as we sort of walk through this report. But let's move on down to the introduction into the inspection details. This is the bottom of page 3. And you're going to see where we start to really kind of get into things. So for us, you're looking at an actual report. And I'm not gonna go through every detail of this report. And by the way, please, by all means, if you have a question, stop and at any time and ask. But if an item's not in red, that does not mean that it's not an issue. It doesn't mean that it's not a significant finding. It just means that it is something that by home inspection industry standards that we have to report on by our standards. But we may find other things, plenty of things actually, that may or will require your attention. So for example, when we have the same routine every time we go out to an inspection property. We're going to start on the outside of it. We're going to work counterclockwise from the front left corner, and we're going to inspect everything within 10 feet of that house from top to bottom. And so you can see before we go inside, and so you can see they're under window condition. Peeling paint noted, should be addressed for repairs. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that may be a huge issue for your buyer. All right, it's not a red issue, but it is something that we're going to look for and find, because while those windows may be functional and while it may be cosmetic on its surface, it may eventually lead to a moisture intrusion issue down the road. So we're gonna point that out when we see it and address it. And we've seen buyers run the gamut on this. And in fact, our owner has kind of struggled back and forth on window condition, whether or not it should or should not be a red item, simply because it can lead to moisture intrusion, down the road, if not currently. We don't make it a red item because we just figure there's so many things we can find that can end up in red. We don't want to add, an unnecessary item because let's be honest, and I'm sure Katie's, touched on this before, when a buyer sees an item in red, it's like they grab a hold of it, right? Like, well, the inspector says that this is a major deal. We got to deal with it. So
They automatically freak out.
what's that?
They automatically freak out.
Yeah, they do. They do. And so, at Trademark, we want to find the issues of the house, but, and hear me on this, we want to get you to the closing table too. And we're not trying to make your job any more difficult than it is. And so if we turn in a report with 5 pages of red items, that's probably the last inspection we're going to do with you. So, we want to walk that fine line of doing our job and making sure that the buyer, because we work for the buyer, we don't work for you per se, we work for the buyer. So we want to make sure we do right by them. But we want to make sure we work with you again too. And so we're going to walk that line, and I think we do it really well of, finding the items that are necessary to address on the amendment, and things that you're just going to have to be aware of as a homeowner, right? And so, if I could stop for a second and look, if you're looking at the bottom of page 3, it says page 3 of 39. So that's kind of a big report for us. 39 pages. Our reports are somewhere between 25 and 35 pages long. I think that's a pretty good number. I know that there are companies out there, with inspection reports that get up into 75, 80 pages, some that get up into triple digits, which is just absolutely insane to me. I think we're finding all the stuff they're finding. I think we've just found a more condensed software and way to present it. Because you get up to 50 pages in a report and that thing just becomes, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? I mean, it's just it's so hard to navigate through it, and you're creating more work for everybody, when you turn in a report that big. So if, for those of you who may be some veterans, in this, if you look at our report and say 39 pages, I don't know if that's enough, trust me. I'm not going to go through every item in this report, but Chris found a bunch in this house. So let's just keep moving. Slide down to number 3, siding condition. They're going to point out the type of siding as well that's around the house. Give you a general statement on the condition of the siding, and whatever issues that you may have found there. You can see on number 3, this is on page 4, that Chris mentions that all penetrations should be sealed to prevent moisture damage. This is just basic home ownership. Now, if this was a brand new construction home, and I think I saw that on sort of the tail end of Katie's presentation, then yeah, obviously we would probably put this in red item on a new construction home. But when this house was built in the 50s, there's probably going to be a few things that aren't sealed up. And so rather than make this this is a good example. Rather than make this picture a really big deal, we're just going to let the buyer know, hey, look, you got a couple of bumps and bruises, right? As Katie pointed out, that you're going to have to, pay attention to and address at some point. If you scroll on, let's scroll on down to page 5 and look at the driveway and walkway. This is one where agents get on us about this one a little bit when we point out extensive cracks and settlement, especially on a home this big. The good news about what Chris found here is it's just cracking. So it's not pretty, right? But if that crack was a 1/4 inch or more in height, then that becomes a red item. See, for me, this would have been a red item. And just so you know, before I moved over into the sales side of what we do here at Trademark, I was an inspector for 2 years. So if you look at where, I'm on page 5, by the way. If you look at the right picture, it says uneven concrete surfaces noted. This is a potential tripping hazard. So Chris and I differ here. And if you get 10 inspectors in a room, you might get 5 or 6 different opinions on this. If it's a tripping hazard, that's red for me. And here's why. If you're an athlete like Katie, then you're probably not going to trip on that surface going into the front door, right? But would mother-in-law,
Not an athlete like that, but thanks, Jason.
But would grandmother, right? Would, you know, someone who may have some sort of physical challenge, you know, would they be able to navigate that concrete surface without tripping? Probably. All right. But if not, you know, if somebody trips, falls, you know, on, you know, an issue like this, it's your liability. So Chris did call it out, which is good. And hopefully Chris spent a little time explaining, you know, why that's an issue. But this is a bigger one for me because I've had this happen with my own parents in their house. It was actually something relative to a handrail with steps. It wasn't a proper handrail on the steps they had in one of their houses, and they had someone fall coming down their stairs, and that thing wasn't properly installed. And so my parents paid for a trip in an ambulance and all the bills that came with it, you know, because of something simple that could have been addressed. So
can I say something real quick, Jason?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have very extensive cracks in my driveway to the point where my truck, which does not have great shocks, is like, oh God, going up it. The issue that I have there is the pain in the tuchus issue, but not like a major concern, is that I'm constantly getting stuff growing in it, which of course the roots are just going to break up the rock even more. The biggest thing is as water gets down in there and in the sides, it's going to start to go through and underneath, and then it's going to wash out. And so here on the sides, especially if this is on a slope like mine, you're going to start to get crazy erosion. Like it's just going to snowball. And so I'm actually, I have stuff at my house. I need to get off the fence and actually do it to repaint, to basically smooth it out for that.
Well, and not only that, Katie, but in the wintertime, when you get moisture in there and it freezes, now it expands, right? And so it just creates more issues. The problem with this, guys, on driveway cracks and settlement cracks, is that oftentimes, you know, the sealant that you can put on it, it's not very pretty. And so if it's just cracking, then we're not gonna make a huge deal of it. You know, obviously Chris called it out here, and we're gonna say, hey, look, either keep an eye on this or go ahead and seal it. Sometimes the sealant is uglier than the actual crack themselves. All right, but if it's significantly uneven, it's not an easy fix all the time. And so it's just something that that you know you just want to make buyers aware of, and you just want to make them aware of, you know, the potential liability. But it's not necessarily one of those items. And you can see Chris didn't even put it in red. And so he and I would disagree on whether or not it should be red or not. But as long as you take the time to explain to the buyer, you know, and or the agent that may not know as much about this, of what that issue is, then whether or not it's red or not, it really is sort of immaterial. So anyway, moving on, deck. All right. I actually picked a report here with a deck that wasn't an issue. And guys, look, probably the number one issue that we deal with, and I can remember when I was inspecting, I would get to a house and there was no deck, and I'd be like, yes, you know, because if it was a deck built prior to 2014 when the new deck codes came out, then it was automatically there was going to be 5 or 6 red items on a deck that, you know, that you just knew you were going to find because it wasn't quite up to code. So let's talk about that for a second, because oftentimes you're going to deal, if you haven't dealt with a buyer who said this house isn't up to code or this deck isn't up to code or whatever, you're going to deal with that at some point. No house, unless it's brand new construction, is required to be at code, because when it was built, it probably was at code or up to code at the time. As you can see on this one we did for Dawn, this is a small little deck on the back of the house, and there wasn't really anything going on there. So I think that's one of the things that you first, you know, probably taking the time to learn as much as you can about decks is a good thing, because it's a hot button issue with buyers, because there's just so many little red items that pop up. And again, most of the time, it's not so much that the deck's about to fall off the back of the house, or it's not structurally sound. It's just not built to today's safest standards, right? Does that mean you can't put 10 people outside on your deck and have a burger and a beer? No, not necessarily. And that's what we're going to tell you. Okay. I mean, we're going to walk every inch of that deck. We're going to inspect every bit of the structure and substructure. And we're going to tell you, hey, look, no, you can't have a Super Bowl party out here. This thing has some issues. But we're also going to say, hey, look, if we were building it today, this is what we'd have to do. And this is what you can do, if you want to bring it up to code. But would I put my family of 5 on it? That's usually the standard that I would measure it by when I'm talking to buyers. Would I put my family of 5 and your family of 5 on it, and hang out up here and listen to music, whatever? Absolutely. And so, but decks, unfortunately, I didn't pick you a report that had a lot of deck issues, but decks are pretty big. And so when you've got a deck at a property, make sure that you or your buyer, really spend some time with the inspector, and y'all know exactly what issues it has and what issues may come up down the road. You can see I'm just moving on, bottom of page 6, stairs, handrail issues, a couple of minor electrical issues that Chris found there. He's going to show you where the main gas valve is. That's number 6. Moving to the page, where am I? Page 8. Shows you where the pressure regulator is. All right, so that's a cool picture right there. Your water pressure in your house, all plumbing should have what's called a pressure regulator. And you can see that Chris, I'm at the bottom of page 8, or about midway down. Chris took a picture of it actually from the crawl space that he got suited up and went under there so he could find this item. So there you see the pressure regulator. Now these pressure regulators, just so you know, I'm getting off just a little bit, but these things are hypersensitive. So if you don't like your water pressure, it's too much or too little, and you want to adjust it, unless you have some plumbing background and you've dealt with one of these things are pretty sensitive. So we recommend that you let a qualified plumber adjust that. But if you ever have a house on a crawl space, typically you're going to find it in the crawl. All right, move on. Exterior faucet. He shows you a couple of issues that he found there. We're going to take pictures of gates functioning or not functioning. Also still on the exterior of the house. All right. Top of page 10, Katie, where you see the vents. So this is a pretty ugly looking dryer vent. And this actually could be a fire hazard. You can see that Chris, this would have been a red item for me. Chris is probably the most agent-friendly, one of the most agent-friendly inspectors that we have, because honestly, this could cause a fire, okay? But it is, and the reason that he didn't put it in red, guys, is because it is such an easy minor fix that Chris probably said, hey, look, I'm going to spend more time explaining this on how to fix it than what the actual issue is. But you can see that that's just excessive lint buildup from the dryer, and the vent's actually damaged. All that is you can take your finger, or you can take a screwdriver and just sort of scrape all of that lint off, and poof, it's fixed. So is that thing going to cause a fire? Probably not. But it's code now to make sure, to keep all that lint clear and free, because obviously it's created one at some point somewhere along the way. So I kind of like that Chris didn't put this in red. I would have, just because it's more of it can be more of a cover your issue for a lot of inspectors. But Chris is, this particular inspector is such a good teacher that rather than make this a red item, like we were talking about with Katie earlier, and adding one more item to the beginning of the report and all that red, he said, hey, look, just clean this with your finger, with a screwdriver or whatever, and that red item really is kind of peak. All right. Let's talk about roofs for a second, because roofs can obviously be a deal breaker for a buyer. This was really kind of an easy roof to inspect, and it looks almost brand new. So you can see that Chris is going to point out to you, the actual, photos that he took. So that we put boots on that roof. And he's going to walk every inspector we have. We don't hire guys that are like, I don't get on roofs. That's unacceptable at our place in this industry. Now there are some roofs that you can't get on, and that's going to require, or the weather can be a factor. So if we can't get on your roof, then we're going to fly a drone over it. That's it for Trademark. We don't. If an inspector says, "Hey, look, I'm not buying a drone. I use a telescopic pole to put a camera up there," that's okay. I mean, that's acceptable in home inspection industry standards, but we're going to set our standards a little bit higher. We're going to hire guys that are not afraid to get on roofs. And then if a roof is too high or too pitched to get on it, then we're going to put a drone over it. Katie, do we have time to pull the other inspection up that I sent you?
Yeah, let me see if I can, because can y'all see that?
If we can
Yes.
get to the other one, and the only reason I want to do this, if for those who have not seen an inspection with a drone report, this is the one from 1422 Barron Court, Stone Mountain, and I am on page 15.
Okay.
I'll give you a second if you need to.
I'm on 11. I was searching for the word roof. Here we
There you go. You got it. Okay, cool. So, this is what you're looking at. Now, is a drone inspection the same thing as walking it? No, there's no way. Even as high tech as some of these drones are, it's not the same as walking it. But this was a property where we could not physically mount it. Most of our guys carry 15-foot ladders. So if we can't mount that roof, with a ladder, then we're going to fly a drone over it as long as the weather's good, as long as the tree cover allows us to. So this is just kind of giving you a very general idea of the condition of the roof from a drone. And so that's it for us, guys. We're either going to get on it or we're going to fly over it. It's actually kind of the roof's actually, this may sound crazy. The roof's really the most fun part of the inspection. It's most challenging. Anybody can kind of open windows and turn faucets on and off, but either flying the drone or mounting it is really the best. I always thought it was the best part of the day. But anyway, that gives you an idea. All right, we can go back to the other one, Katie, because what he did find, and I'm now on page 11 of that. He takes some up close and personal pictures. You're perfect right there where you are, of the vent caps. One of the vent caps is in good condition, and then you can see that the boot around another one is sort of at the end of its useful life. All right, and so that's a big deal, because as those things wear, water is going to find its way in there. So that's an issue that a buyer is going to have to deal with at some point, even as new as that roof is, right? That vent boot's got a little age and a little wear on it. Moving on. So we find some gutter issues on the very next page. I've seen inspectors from other companies that call this out as a red item every time, simply because if you get too much buildup in those gutters, then it causes the water to spill back toward the roof and the roof decking, creating moisture issues. So is this a red item? It can be, and it's really kind of up to each inspector. We don't want it to be, because the fix is easy. And when we say easy, it's not, it means when we say easy fix, it means it's a do-it-yourselfer that doesn't require, a lot of skill, or, certain types of equipment. So you can put a ladder against that, against that gutter line and blow that out with a blower, and I can guarantee you that's what Chris told, Dawn and during this process. Moving on, Doubletap Neutrals. Let's get to the electrical panel. So this used to be a big no-no at the top, page 13. You're right there, Katie. Good. It is now. Most electricians will not even mess with this. If you find double-tap neutrals, there's supposed to be a space for each wire. What you're looking at right there with all those screws is what's called a bus bar, and it should be one wire per screw. Electricians laugh at us because they're not going out there usually. I mean, they will if you want to pay them to do it. But I think over the years they found almost no issues from double tap. Now when you get into triple tapping and quadruple tapping on a bus bar, that does cause scorching, which can cause fires in the panel. We call it out simply because even though an electrician doesn't think that's a big deal, if an electrician went out there today and installed a brand new panel and a brand new bus bar, they would not put two neutrals on each bar like that, or on each screw. So something that we call out, but don't be surprised if you hear an electrician's opinion say, hey, look, if you don't see any scorching, and you can see on that picture there's no reddish scorching around any of those wires, then it's probably fine. We let you know where your main amp breaker is. In this case, it's in the main panel. That's sort of in the middle of that page. There you go. Scrolling on, we let you know if any breakers were were off. And in this case, all the breakers were functional and operational. Moving on to the water heater, we're going to tell you what kind of water heater you have. This is a tankless one. On a house this old, that's pretty cool to find a tankless water heater system. We're going to tell you about how long they last. We're going to do that for the HVAC and for your water heaters. Moving on, we're going to test the temperature, so if you're within that recommended safety range. Let's see what we found in the attic. We're on page 16. We scroll on down. So you can see evidence of a past leak that Chris took a picture of. It was dry at the time. Inspection industry standards say that anything on a moisture meter, I want to say around 12 or 13% or below on a moisture meter, is not considered active. And so in this case, Chris just found a past water stain and just wanted the buyer to know, hey, look, I found it, I saw it, I'm aware of it. It's okay. It's not active. Let's see.
Ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
Because I find this a couple times where we find, especially with roofs or like a water stain in the ceiling, we find evidence of a past issue. I like to tell my people, hey, look, especially if we see it during the showing, I'll bring it up to the inspector. Hey, we're going to find issues with the home. As long as it was taken care of properly and in a timely manner, typically I say that it's fine. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And if you look, I think the only thing, if you look at that left picture, guys, I think the only thing I might have done different than what Chris did is, okay, well, you tell me it's a past leak. From this picture, how do I know that's a past leak, right? So about the only thing, as long as I can get to that, and sometimes the picture doesn't really do it justice on the difficulty of the angle to get to certain parts of this attic, all right? I would have tried to have put my moisture meter on it and taken a picture of it at 8% or 9%. So where you're telling me that it's inactive, okay, I'm also showing you with the meter. So now this could be that he was able to zoom to the picture, but what do we know about the roof? The roof looked almost brand new, right? and they're not going to replace all of that decking that you see on that picture right there. Obviously they're coming in and they're going to reshingle a roof when it's time. So the fact that there's pretty much a brand new roof laying over that roof decking, it's probably safe to say that that's a past leak. And so that's a pretty good find by Chris. And if nothing else, what this is doing, guys, is it's showing you how thorough he was in the lengths and extent that he went to in the attic. You notice that there's an improper angle noted for that purlin support. And he says the braces can be 2x4s, must go from the purlin to a load bearing wall. So I'm not exactly sure I didn't call Chris on this one, so I'm not exactly sure. I only see one purlin support. It looks like it was sort of a, kind of a do-it-yourselfer, that was just support that was added, sometime after the construction of the home. But Chris was not worried about that support. There was no sagging in the roof. There's no structural issues in the rafters above it. But he just wanted the buyer to be aware that it was there. And then you see some other water staining noted as well. Scrolling on down to the electrical issue. Any questions there before I go on?
Yeah, actually, this is Jeff. I have a question about the water staining and leaks, so tap leaks.
Yeah.
Does the same go for, like, say, a condo where you have shared spaces? You might see a water stain in the ceiling, but somebody might live above you. Does that then mean that unit needs to be inspected as well to find out, like, where the leak is coming from, if it's active, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. I think that obviously tracing the source of the water is going to be the first thing the inspector does. So in this case, Chris already knew from the exterior that he had a brand new roof, right? And so when he came in and he saw, clearly a water stain, my guess is that he probably did put the meter on it as long as he could get to it. So then it's just a matter of, where, for the condo issue is where is the shared space? And then is it active? So, if it's active, and I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not, but, if it's active and it's in your, it's on your side of the shared space, then, then obviously it's your issue.
Hey, Jason. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Did I answer that, Jeff?
You did, without me being, like, uber specific about, a situation. Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I'll make sure that you guys have Jason's contact information and stuff too. Jason, I didn't know if you wanted to share your personal cell phone. So if so, by all means, please put in the chat. We only have a couple more minutes though, so I can get to how to write the ATAC, if you don't mind, as well as hear from Cindy about the home warranty to cover some of this stuff.
Yeah, great. Listen, I hope I was kind of able to help you guys sort of see what and how we do things the Trademark way. We'd love to work with you down the road. Katie, I appreciate your time. If there's anything that you have specific, questions about any of this, I'm going to put my information over here in just a second. And I appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, no, thank you. Would you say that typically what I like to tell my buyers is that we're really going to be paying attention to the major systems. So the electrical, the plumbing, the heat and AC, the roof, water issues getting into the house. What are those, really, what are the biggest deal killers where you really need to get a second opinion or someone out there stat because it could be a life or death?
Yeah, great question. And you more or less touched on them, Katie. Anything that we point out that's a safety issue, that's a structural issue, electrical, plumbing, things that you should not inherit, as a home buyer, radon, those are the really big ones. And that is why it is so important. The most important part of the home inspection process, guys, is the last 30 minutes of the day. And that's when you by all means should coach your buyers to be there. Unless they are an experienced home buyer that's dealt with a lot of these issues, your buyer needs to be there. And when possible, if you can be there, I think you need to be as well. Because you're going to hear and see the inspector talk. We're going to show you every picture we took on site. And if necessary, if you want us to walk you to the actual issue, we're going to walk you to the issue and show it to you. But if you're getting even this report, and there wasn't a lot on this one for Dawn. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're getting this report today and you see some of these pictures and some of this language for the first time, imagine how intimidating and overwhelming that is, you know, for the first time or just the inexperienced home buyer. So yeah, absolutely. That last 30 minutes of what we call the debrief is the most critical part of the day, because we're going to be able to sort of, you know, talk the buyer down the edge, you know, or the ledge rather, of, you know, what probably isn't as important as they might think it is, and show them, hey, this probably is a little more important than you think, you know. Did that answer your question, Katie?
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to screen share one more time so that y'all can see Jason's info, and then by all means put whatever you want, Jason, in the chat so that they can contact you. But yeah, thank you. We really appreciate that. That was very informative, and seeing an actual report when you go over it, you know, what it looks like, what the verbiage is going to be, that's really important. So thank you very, very much. You're getting some love in the chat, so we appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah,
so it's last name at Trademark Your Home, whereas this one is just service. But if y'all want Jason in particular, he put his cell phone number and his email in the chat. So thanks.
Great.
We are going to move on before we get Cindy, and this one might go a little over too, but that's okay. I would rather y'all get all the good info. So when we're writing the amendment to address concerns, after we've gone over this inspection report with our peeps, I want y'all to be as specific as you possibly can. I literally want y'all to go over the who, what, where, when, and why, and how. So who is doing the work? Who is paying for it? When's the work being done? How much is it going to cost? Not every item that you ask for is going to have a question like that with it, and yet you really need to be asking yourself all those questions. Be specific as possible to cover your buyer's tookuses. And you can always reference the inspection report for the specific items by including that reference number. So in the ones that Jason was going over, there was, you know, item 3 was, I don't know, roof, and picture 3.1 specifically showed the part that we want fixed, etc. So I want to give y'all some common requests that I typically write on my amendment to address concerns, or that I see as a listing agent. So these are probably the 5 most common examples. So a seller will provide buyer at closing a 1-year home warranty of buyer's choosing to be ordered by the selling agent, not to exceed $650. I'm going to break that down a little bit. And the reason I use it as the first example is because Cindy with America's Preferred is going to talk to us about their home warranty. I just got, which buyer was it? It was probably Scott and Brianne. They just got America's Preferred home warranty for their closing a couple weeks ago. So who's doing it? The seller is paying for it. Seller is providing the buyer. When at closing, a 1-year home warranty. And I just like to say of buyer's choosing. I don't like to specify the brand or anything up front if I don't have to. And then that way, just in case we want to change coverage or something and they're only giving us X number of dollars, whatever. To be ordered by selling agent. That is not the seller's agent. Selling agent is the buyer's agent. So I'm filling it out. So I have to remember to fill out that report prior to closing, send it to the closing attorney, send it in. Not to exceed $650. So what I do, and what Cindy can go over with y'all, is there's different plans. I like to add on a couple other things. I like to buy down the price from a $100 service call to a $50 service call. That's like an additional, I don't know, $100 maybe. I like to get extended coverages. Maybe they have multiple sets of of multiple refrigerators, multiple sets of laundry. Sometimes you have them in the basement and up in the master upstairs. Another good one is seller will have licensed electrician, X, Y, and Z, whatever items you saw on the inspection report, and will provide paid invoices by 48 hours of closing. So not only is that saying who's doing it, the seller, who's going to do the work, a licensed electrician, very important that the word license is in there, is going to do X, Y, and Z from the inspection report and provide paid invoices by 48 hours of closing. And the reason I want to make it time bound like that, and I say by 48 hours of closing, not within, because within means it could happen up to 2 days after closing, and that's not going to happen. So by 48 hours of closing, they're going to have to provide me with paid invoices, proving that it was done. And I'm going to call them, and I'm going to make sure it was them, because one of our agents was lied to and given the wrong information because a licensed person didn't actually do it. It was just a regular handyman doing some pretty extensive electrical repair. Is Stephanie on the call? I don't see her, but she can tell you all about that. Next, seller will provide buyer at closing with a 1-year retreat and repair termite bond from whatever company you choose. Seller will have furnace and AC unit cleaned and serviced. Very common in lieu of repairs. Seller will provide buyer with $1,500 additional closing costs for a total of $4,500, whatever you want to fill in there. So take a screenshot of this and whatnot, save it, and then I want to introduce Cindy. She's with America's Preferred, super sweet. She was very helpful in getting me to register on their website the other week, and she has a lovely incentive for y'all. So Cindy, feel free to unmute. I put in there the company website, company phone number, but I have your email in there, and then they do home warranty for basically any type of property besides land, I would guess, because why would you even get it for that? But
pretty much.
that's Cindy's information, and then I have a slide from her here, and I'm running out of the room for a minute, so take it away, Cindy.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat too, so you have it just in case.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me on today. So I'm sure everyone is asking, so how does the home warranty kind of relate to the home inspection? And where it does is what is in the box in the center of this particular slide. So first of all, the one thing to know about us that's different is we let the homeowner choose their own licensed contractor for all covered repairs. So they get to pick who they want to work with. They get to choose when that contractor comes out to their property. So that eliminates a lot of some of the concerns and issues that are out there in the warranty space, so to speak. But how this relates to the home inspection is we offer a complimentary listing or seller warranty while the home is on the market. So you can, as soon as you get a listing, you can put a free, it's complimentary to your seller. You put that home warranty on that listing. What we will accept is if your seller, you get a request from the buyer for some repairs off of that home inspection, like Jason just went over, we will take a claim on an item off of the home inspection report. So there were a few items that I noticed when he was going through it in the electrical area, in the plumbing area. It's possible that that seller could make a claim, and you're going to be the hero because you provided that warranty, and that's going to save them some money on coming out of pocket on that home inspection. And then they can put money towards some of the other repairs. So I would always recommend take advantage of it. A lot of agents don't. So if you are actually in a listing presentation, I would, as an agent, and I've had my license since 2002. So if that helps, I have been a licensed agent and I've always used them. So you take advantage of offering it in your presentation to your potential seller and say, I'm going to provide you with home warranty coverage during the listing period. You don't have to tell them it's free. They'll think you're providing it. And I'm going to promise you most of your competition is not offering that. People do not take advantage of it. So if you put that on, then take advantage of it for home inspection items as well. Now there are some, it's a smaller subset of what a buyer would get, and there's $1,000 total aggregate of claims. But again, you know, if it's something that will help your seller during the listing period, and if something happens that is outside of the home inspection, they can make a claim and have that taken care of. One tip about that though, when you're ordering, if you decide to use the listing coverage, you have to order a buyer plan, but it's not a requirement that the seller transfer it to the buyer. And the reason I'm telling you that is the deductible that you choose for the buyer plan also is applicable to the seller. So I always say just order the plan or select the buyer coverage with the $50 deductible. Your seller will have a $50 deductible. And again, it's not required that they purchase that particular plan for the buyer or transfer it over. That's what we're hoping will happen, but it's not a requirement. And I hope that makes sense to everyone. One thing that's special for you guys is Keller Williams Peachtree Road also offers you a $75 office credit per warranty. And I put in here meeting RESPA requirements. What that means is you have to provide something back to us. We can't just pay you for selling a warranty. So you provide us either with the home inspection, or there's a small little data collection form you fill out, and then we are going to send the money to Keller Williams, and you're going to get an office credit on every one that's sold. So, and of course, always call me. I am here as a resource for you for any questions that you might have. And I wanted to talk very quickly about what Katie mentioned about the special steps. So before you put in a number, a dollar amount, I'm going to suggest take a quick look at the warranty. All of the information, by the way, is in our warranty booklet, and there are booklets in your office. I'm also happy to always send you an electronic version, so just let me know and I will get that to you. But depending on, we have standard coverage, and then there's some upgrades. You can include the washer dryer. So I just want to make sure you have yourself covered. So if there is something that your buyer wanted, they don't have to come out of pocket at closing. So just take a look at the numbers. If you have a question, call me. I'm happy to help you with that as well, on what you might want to add in or what you want to ask for. Because we're not all the same. Every warranty's pricing is different. So I would suggest not using the same number all the time. Just make sure that you have it. Take a quick.
Yeah, great suggestion. And Sydney, in the chat, someone is asking for, can you email me a brochure? And what I'm going to do is I will upload it to our Facebook group so that they can always find it there.
Absolutely, I will do that.
Perfect.
As we hang up. And in our brochure, everything we cover and everything we don't cover is listed as well. So all of the information should be in there. And again, please take advantage of it for your sellers and for your listings, and hopefully it'll make a difference between you and competition in a listing presentation if you offer it.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know very many people, listing agents that do that. I know Karen Armstrong, whose office is right across the hall from mine. They typically do for their seller, which I think is great.
Yes, and there's also one other thing, that if you can convince your seller to offer it for a buyer, so if you're on the listing side, that way you're ordering the warranty for the buyer. You have to order the buyer side to get the $75 credit, just so you know. So if you can get a seller to offer it for your buyer, there are statistics, and you can Google it, that homes will sell faster and for a little more money if the seller is offering a home warranty. And that's because it just gives the buyer a little more peace of mind, and sometimes they're not as, they don't get as picky about the home inspection as well. And Katie, you may have seen that as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let me tell you, so when I bought my house, my AC unit was 26 years old. It was working just fine. I'm never going to ask a seller to give me money for something that's working just fine. That being said, I am going to make sure that after I shell out my down payment, my closing costs, etc., that I'm not having to come out of pocket if something goes crazy, you know, just in the year after me buying a house and putting 20 grand down. So I love adding a home warranty for my buyers.
Definitely. And usually most issues happen within the first 90 days after a closing. There's a lot of statistics on that too. And that's just because the home dynamics have changed. So if you have a home with 2 people that are just deciding to downsize and now you have a family of 5 that moves in, everything's going to get stressed and change. The whole dynamics change, and that's when things break. So it's always a good thing to recommend to having one. And hopefully we'll have you covered. And if you ever get in a gray area with a claim or any issue, please let me know, because I'm here to, as a resource, to help fix anything. I want to make sure you guys are taken care of.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cindy. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you put, okay, good. She put her information in the chat for anyone. Very, very helpful. So thank you, Cindy. And thank you for helping me get the Bowmans set up with theirs. Yeah. Awesome. So welcome everyone that has joined us just now. Does anyone have any last minute ahas, questions about the inspection report and the amendment to address concerns?
Yes, I have a few.
Hey, Jamie. What's going on?
Hi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I do have a question about the termite and pest inspection and a survey. Would you recommend we all get that for single family homes? I know the termite is separate from just a regular inspection.
Yeah, so good question. So personally, I get Aero Pest to come out because they will do it for free. They won't write a termite letter, but the only time that you're required to have a termite letter is for VA loans. So if you have any other type of loan, you don't have to have a termite letter. I call Aero Pest the day that I schedule the home inspection, and I say, hey, can I have a termite inspection, please? Preferably, for this day. We're in due diligence. They'll come out for free. They will go through the house, blah, 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 takes, 45 minutes or so, and they'll give you an inspection report. They're also going to give you their pricing and try to sell you a package, which is great that you can ask the seller for. You have all the pricing right then and there. But then that way you don't have to rely on the seller scheduling it and getting the report. I just do Aero Pest. That being said, I know at least Residential Inspector of America and probably Home Probe will also do pest reports, and they're $3.99. So there you go.
Would you also do a survey?
A survey? I think the only reason why people would really require a survey is if they want to build something on their property, or if they want to be the boundary lines of where they are. They're like $500 to $600 for like a regular size plot of land. And so I've had very few people want to get one. So yeah.
Okay.
And then Matt says Bug Out will provide a free inspection with a letter. So perfect. Bug Out. Sweet. Are we good to move on to for sale by owner and expires?
Katie, I had a quick question about the ATAC. It's Jesse McLaughlin.
Hey.
Hey, so I had written on my buyers during due diligence that, like you said earlier in one of your slides, like in lieu of replacing, or repairing, you would ask for blah, 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 closing cost. And so the lender wrote me back and asked me if I could rewrite it without that wording in lieu of repairs.
Got you.
I don't know. Is that common? I had not heard of that before, so I didn't even know. So
yeah, so depend, especially if it's like an FHA loan. The lender is going to see pretty much every amendment that is with anything to do with price, amending the purchase price, changing the amount of closing costs, etc., because they have to put together the closing disclosure. If there's anything on there that hints at the house not being in good enough condition, like it needs repairs, you should probably word that in a way. And or what you can do is, if you do need to put some post-closing repair related things on there, as well as amend the price or closing cost, you can do one on the amendment to address concerns, one on amendment number 2. Just do two different documents, because if a lender sees something like that, it may red flag it. So
Yeah, that's why I ended up doing both the ATAC and the price change.
Perfect. Yep. Perfect.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Hooray! FSBOs and expireds. So I love for sale by owners and expireds. One, I love cold calls, mainly because I can just sit in my pajamas and do them, and I love to be lazy. So I think that they're awesome. I think that they are a great source of listings, especially when you don't know an area and if you don't have a lot of money to go start farming right away. There's also a lot of monkey mind and fear around FSBO and expired. So I'm very excited for this. Like I said in the first class, I want us to concentrate on getting a little bit more listing heavy. There, you know, as new agents, we typically have a lot of buyers, and yet how badass would that be if we were listing heavy over our buyers? That would, I think, really turn some heads. So let's do that. First of all, announcement, have you scheduled your July one-on-one yet? You would know if you have, because I sent everyone, at least that's in my bucket. If you coach with one of the 3 other coaches, you might not have gotten one of these on Friday. But I reached out to everyone that coaches with me, asking y'all to schedule your one-on-one, or I was confirming if we already have it on the calendar. So check your calendar. Let me know if you haven't scheduled it. Here's our productivity coaching July schedule. You will note that next Monday, the 13th, we're not in our groups. That's because I want to go over something that is actually going to be taking a lot more, not a lot more time, but I really want to devote 90 minutes to campaigns. Campaigns are going to be when you set them up once and then they auto go out to the people in your command. So it's kind of like a set it and forget it kind of situation, very easy to stay top of mind. There's a birthday one for all your peeps. That means that you have to start putting their birthdays in command. There's a bunch of different types, and I think that it's going to be great for your nurtures and your leads that aren't your right now clients. So we're going to be doing that from 12 to 1:30 next Monday, all as one big group. And then on the 20th, our topics are listing checklist, so that when you have a listing, it's signed, like you've already gotten it. What do you do now? So it's everything that you're going to have to do up until going under contract. Number at 1 p.m. is going to be financials and loans. So Supreme is going to help us differentiate between conventional, FHA, VA, what it looks like from the back end, just so that we understand a little bit more about how they work and why they take so long sometimes with different checkpoints. And then at 2 p.m. is appraisals, and what do they mean, what goes into it, etc. Because unless you do a cash deal, you're going to have to get that property appraised. So, and then on the 27th, we're back in groups A, B, and C. Questions? Great. Reminder, there's always an agent on call for Friday evenings through Sunday. Just like I would never tell y'all to have your clients call you at 10 p.m. or 4th of July and things like that. You know, like we are all human, etc. You guys get days off from your clients. PC head, locate Kate, gets a little bit of time off. If we're working 24/7, then y'all are just going to burn out. Okay, so make sure that you're setting boundaries with your clients, just like I'm kind of setting boundaries right here, right now. Doesn't mean I'm not going to get back to you. Just I'm intentionally not looking at my phone on the weekend. Just going to be honest with y'all, because Monday to Friday, basically 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. I kind of feel like I'm on call. So I just want to be transparent with y'all. Okay, so you will have that agent's name and phone number in a couple different ways. The Market Center sends it out Friday around 5. I send it out in the PC Weekly update that I email to everyone Thursday nights or Fridays, and then it's on at least one of the 2 Facebook groups that y'all should be in, the KWPR and the Productivity Coaches. Good? Does anyone have issues with this slide? Feel free to let me know privately or right now. Okay, great. Moving on. Ignite is back July 20th. Please let me know if you need to register. I don't think that the registration link is active yet, so just know that it is coming. Bold Pivot is coming as well, 99 bucks. It was originally going to be mid-July through early August, and they bumped it back to August 4th. So it will be 4 weeks, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4 p.m., $99. Questions before we go to for sale by owner? Amazing. Also, I love Cindy. She's my favorite of the day because she's the only person showing her face besides me. So feel free to turn your cameras on. Awesome. I'm gonna wait till at least one person does. Hey, Jasmine, I knew you were my other favorite. What's up, girl? Keisha, yeah, thank you. I love y'all. All right, so for sale by owners, they are some of the low-hanging fruit. Hi, Robert. What do I mean by that? Low-hanging fruit. Bueller.
It just means that they're already in the market and they're already selling their house. So that's what you mean by low-hanging fruit.
Dan? Yes. It means they already have their hand up that they want to sell their property. It's not like you're just cold calling, around an open house and things like that. These are people who want to do a real estate transaction. However, I know that there's a lot of agents who are afraid of offering their services to them. So y'all let me know in the chat or unmute yourself. I want to know what the fear is around them. Because there's very few of our agents that are open to them, and that's okay. I don't care how y'all lead gen. I just want to know what that obstacle is that we need to get over so that you can start to do them if you choose.
They're mean.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Katie.
Yeah?
They're mean.
Oh, they're mean. Oh, I guess some can be a little curt on the phone, and yet I've told, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them, and I've shown, when I have buyers, I've shown multiple others, and I think it's all about that give respect, gain respect kind of balance, but, they do get their phones blown up a lot, so, okay, so Celeste says, isn't there a reason that they're not selling? Well, when you're just on Zillow and you're not actually on the multiple listing service, your audience is already diminished, as well as they're probably not pricing it properly or marketing it properly. Fear of rejection, I feel that bothering them. Some are mean, not budging on price. Unfortunately, a lot of them are really digging their heels into the ground and they don't budge on price, and that's why they're going to sit for a while. Cindy says, yep, fear that I'm one of many who have called them. And then Angeline says they have an ego and think they can do it better than agents. I totally understand those. And I think that there's a lot of truth to all of those. However, there's a little bit of finessing to helping with for sale by owners. So I'm going to, perfect. I'm going to stop sharing for a little bit and get my notes out. Perfect. Okay, so I've listed, let's see, my notes. I've listed 4, and they've taken anywhere between 2 phone calls and 5 weeks of follow-up. And I'm sorry, y'all probably can only see my name. I have to do my phone for the volume and my computer for the camera, so I'm sorry if you just see my name. If you're on your phone or something. So the one that took 2 phone calls was a $900,000 home near Morningside, and that sold. And then the one that took 5 weeks of follow-up wound up being multiple properties. 2 of those sold. So it's all about the follow-up typically with the for sale by owner. I use an Excel spreadsheet as my CRM, my resource, like the contact management. I would put the quality contacts in e-edge and command. But every single person I talked to, whether they hung up on me, whether I left a voicemail, I would always put that in an Excel spreadsheet. And the columns I had were address, phone number, name, and then notes for every day that I called. So some of them, you know, in the notes it said LM, that's left a message in my shorthand. Sometimes it would be, I mean, sometimes it was every single word of our conversation. I would rather be really personal with them, and before I called them back a second time, read over my entire conversation from last time before I do that, just so that they really knew I was paying attention to them and I was taking what they were saying into consideration. So every single person I called, whether I got to talk to them or not, whether they hung up on me or not, and I would note that HU was hung up, I would write them down in my Excel spreadsheet. And then anyone that was a quality conversation, I would then put into my command. And then I would put them on some kind of drip campaign, especially if I got their email address. That way, if I wanted to see all the for sale by owners and just concentrate on that set of calls for like a 2-hour lead gen time, I could just do that. Anthony Bucolato does a really good job of that as well. He has been calling for sale by owners. He's the one that I posted in the Facebook group. He got a listing that I think it's coming live this week. I think he's doing photos today. Yeah, it took 2 or 3 phone calls with them. So that's awesome. And it's a really good price point. I think it's going to be $520 and it's a great neighborhood. So there you go. I don't use a dialer when I do my my for sale by owner calls. I do when I'm circle prospecting around a listing or open house, and I do when I'm doing an expired. But I don't with for sale by owners. One, I want to save money, and I want y'all to save money. I want you to be very expense conscious right now. I am also very selective about which FSBOs I call. So this is your business. I'm just going to give you the Katie model of things. Do whatever y'all like. If you want to go purchase a dialer and add on the for sale by owner numbers, by all means go do that. And yet, these are my best practice tips. So I'm selective about which ones I call. I really do, in Zillow, I choose location. So I'm gonna bring it up and then share my screen with y'all because I think that it's important to kind of give a visual. Okay, can y'all see Zillow? Okay, perfect. So when you go to buy, I hover over it instead of clicking and then go to for sale by owner and click that. And then, oh, I guess it knows where I live. So I live in Tucker. So there's 2, turns out there's like, I live right here. So there's 2 right in my neighborhood that I may be calling here soon. So I want to remove this boundary. I'm not just focusing on Tucker. I actually want to zoom out because I'm okay with doing most of the Atlanta metro area. And so this is how I find them. I do the draw tool. And then I come here and I'm like, yeah, I'll go this far. Oh, okay, it messed up. But anyway, there you go. So apply. Draw whatever shape you want. If you want to go absolutely anywhere, well, then that's your choice. I don't want to drive from Tucker to Kennesaw. That's just me. So in the real estate business, this is the geographic range that I'm willing to do for sale by owners in. So then what I'll do is, chat, is I want to sort, this is just how I do it. I want to sort by newest. And the reason I do that is because, and maybe this is my own monkey mind, okay, that's fine. I don't like to call the peeps who just listed for sale by owner. I see a lot of strategy in that. You know, how can you be the first person if you wait days after to call them because other agents are calling them the day that they list? My mentality around that is that some people, like Angeline said, are very headstrong, and it's not always for sale by owner because they want to save the 3% listing fee. A lot of times it's that they want control and they're just power freaks. Well, guess what? I'm also a power freak. So it's really fun to meet those people because then we have a power freak struggle and it's great. So I want to give them a little bit of time. I do want them, honestly, to be a little annoyed by the number of realtor calls they're getting because for the first little bit, they are so hopeful. It's precious. They really think that every phone call that they're getting is an interested buyer. And they really trust the agents when they say, oh, I have an interested buyer. Can I come by? Well, guess what? Those agents likely don't have an interested buyer. They probably, where did my screen go? Where did my video go? They probably are just calling to get their foot in the door for an appointment. So I like to scroll down. Again, this is the Katie method. You do not have to do that. I like to scroll down. I start about 10 days in because I feel like a week and a half in, they have figured out that it's frustrating that they can't do it on their own. Maybe you don't take that long, whatever you want to do. The next thing that I do is I want to go with a realistic price. So as I'm scrolling through these, so this is one that's right outside my neighborhood. So I know the area well. I just bought in it and I keep up to date with all the listings. So when I look through this, $219 for a 3-bed, 2 full bath in Tucker. I mean, depending on the condition, I actually don't think that it's poorly priced, but how would I know? There's only 3 really terrible photos. So that's fine. If this were listed at $400,000, there is absolutely no way, because my 5-bedroom literally down the street sold for $335 in September. So there, you know, I go for realistic price because then it's just easier for me and I'm all about ease. Then I also limit it with price in that I like to go for things that are that $300,000 to $600,000 price range. Do whatever you want. It's your business. I would still go for this one because it's right down the road for me. And yet I may not opt for ones that are only $100,000 just because you make less money that way. So bring your price point up, you make more money. And then the next thing is I like to read the comments. I like to make sure that they're not an agent themselves. Before the coming soon came on the multiple listing service, a lot of agents who were selling their own home put it for sale by owner so that it could be a coming soon type of thing, or their brokerage didn't allow them to do a coming soon situation. So I read the comments. I make sure they're not an agent. If I'm being honest with you, and I get it, you may not follow this, but when they are really insistent about not listing with an agent, do not call soliciting this listing. I'm just going to leave it alone because they may be crabby and I just don't want to work with crabby people. You know how many red dots are on this map? How many is this? 500 something? Oh no, it's showing 500 of 1,195 results. So guess what? You can afford to be picky with the people that you work with, especially with for sale by owners and the types that come along with them. And then I mentioned the time listed. So questions about how to find them, questions about choosing which ones to call. Okay, moving on. So then, let me bring my notes back up. So then the next thing that I'm going to do before I call is I'm going to peruse the photos. I'm going to look at the description. So the one that I pulled up in Tucker, there are 3 pictures. And let's be real, they were all with someone's phone. And they were not flattering. Like, why would you have the house where you see water pooling in the driveway, a bathroom, and then like hardwood floors that still kind of do need to be redone? So I peruse the photos in the description, looking specifically for questions that I can ask the seller. So I want to know, you know, are the photos, are you missing pictures of rooms and different spaces that they might have mentioned in the description? Clearly that last one, they didn't have a kitchen. I need to know how outdated that kitchen is. If there's no photo of it, it's probably awful. Oftentimes they forget the HOA fee on there. So if it's a condo or a townhome, not always with the townhome, but most of the time there's an HOA fee with those. If they don't have it listed, what a great question to ask. I'm literally using the photos in the description to pick out what questions I'm going to ask the seller. And I want to get a feel for how updated the house might be. Where's the chat? Okay, perfect. Okay, so on the call, I always introduce myself as an agent. Now, you will have some people that hang up. guess what? Eventually those people are going to list with an agent. I think it's something like 80% of for sale by owners wind up listing with an agent. I introduce myself as the agent and I ask if they have a moment for some questions about the property. Of course, one of the first questions they ask is, do you have a buyer for my house? Because they're going to find out real fast in the first couple hours or at least day or two of listing that property that most agents that are calling don't have a buyer. They just want to list their house. So does anyone know, where's the chat, the great response to say whenever for sale by owner says, do you have a buyer for my property? What is an awesome way to keep that conversation going?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen your property.
Ah, that's the magic answer. Good job, Angeline. Okay, so I don't know yet. I haven't seen your house. I love that. And make it your own. Like if that's not how you would talk, then say it however you want. But how would I know if a buyer would like your house with your 3 crappy iPhone photos? You know what I mean? Like, no, I have more questions to ask. So I want to go back to the slideshow because it has a lot of really good questions to ask the seller.
Hey, Katie, one quick thing. You said you introduce yourself as an agent and then you say what?
Do you have a moment for some questions about the property?
Okay, got it.
Yep. Just because I don't want to catch them when they're at work, etc.
Right.
Okay, can you see the slideshow?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So low-hanging fruit, questions about the house. So there's a bunch of things that you can ask regardless of the type of house. And then based off of what you see in the photos and the description, you can ask even more. So I would do your homework. This is one reason why I don't like the dialer, because I really like to be purposeful. It's a numbers game for sure, because 80% of them are eventually gonna list with an agent. And yet I want to take the time and be intentional about my conversation with them up front, rather than having 50 cruddy quality conversations with the for sale by owner. So questions about the house, the true bath count. So Zillow, and there, one thing I did with the Tucker house we were looking at is it said 2 bath, and then it has 3 dots underneath where it says 2 bath. When you hover over it, it will tell you 2 full bath, or it will say 1.5. Zillow loves to round up the bath count. So what I'll do is I always phrase my questions. I love to be sneaky. I always phrase my questions to elicit the response that I want, or to get your head thinking. So what I'll do is ask them, hey, you know, I saw on Zillow that it's 2 bath. Is that 2 full baths? And they're almost always like, yeah, it says 2 bath. And I'm like, okay, gotcha. I mean, Zillow rounds that up all the time. So I didn't, it could be 1.5. And then most of the time they're like, oh. Or if it says 3 bath, 3 bed, 3 bath, I'm like, there's no way it's 3 bed, 3 bath. It's almost always 3 bed, 2.5 bath. I love those because I'll say, hey, it says 3 bath. Is it 3 full bath? And they'll say, no, it's 2.5. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, Zillow. And then I blame it on Zillow. And I seem kind of disappointed, like maybe that's not what my buyers are looking for, kind of thing. I like to know what bedrooms are on what floors. Where's the master? Most people do not put master on main. If it is master on main, I want to know how many of those bedrooms are in the basement and therefore aren't actually bedrooms. I want to know what updates they've done very specifically in the kitchens and bathrooms. What type of counters? How old are the cabinets? Have they been repainted, refaced, etc.? I want to know in the bathrooms. When you say updated bathroom, does that mean that you put in a new sink, but you still have 4x4 inch tile on the wall? Or have you put like in a bath fitter, like kind of sticks to the wall thing, but but it's not nice. It's not like it's nice stonework kind of thing. So I want to know very specifically what updates they've done and when. I can't tell you how many people think that 2005 means recently updated. That was half of my life ago. Y'all have kids that are older than that, some of y'all. So no, that's not recently updated. Backyard. most of the time they don't put a picture of the backyard because they don't think that that's really important unless they themselves have kiddos that are maybe utilizing a backyard. Is it fenced? Is it sloped? Is there access from the main living area? Or do I have to go into the basement to get out to the backyard? That would drive me crazy. So lots of great questions there if they have a backyard. Age of the roof, the HVAC, the furnace, etc. If it is an older home, hey, when was electric redone? The basement, if there is one. And if they don't say that there's one, don't just assume that there's not one. Ask a bunch of questions. Look like you're really gathering a lot of good information. Is it daylight? Is it walkout? Is it stubbed for a bath? And then lastly, the HOA fee, what it covers. If it's a condo, you want to know very specifically what amenities. Different buildings have vast differences in amenities. What questions, these are the questions about the house specifically. What questions do y'all have for me? Lovely. So then I like to ask the seller questions. This is more so about them. So I kind of start to build a rapport with the questions about the house. I can, if I'm being honest with you, sometimes I just make it seem like that wasn't the house that my buyers were looking for. Well, guess what? We all have buyers of some type. Whether they're ready to go pre-approved right now is irrelevant. We all have buyers. I'm a buyer right now. I'm going to be purchasing an investment property. So actually, that cute little Tucker house, that actually might be one that I buy. I'm a buyer. You're a buyer. Your mom's a buyer. Everyone's a buyer. So we all have buyers. Okay. Let's not think that we're lying necessarily when we say that. If they start to give us answers that we don't love, when I can say, oh yeah, you know, my buyers are really looking for this instead. So then after I build a little bit of rapport, kind of make it seem like that maybe that house isn't going to work out for whatever buyer I have in mind, I will say to them, so why are you selling? And most of the time it's because they're moving. So I want to know, great, where are you going? Because they might have to still buy, and then hopefully you can at least get something out of the transaction. You can get one transaction out of this. I have helped a for sale by owner buy before they sold. So that was fun. They have no qualms with working with you on the buyer side almost always, just because it doesn't cost anything for them. So they would rather have your help there. I love to phrase the how come you're not using an agent question one of two ways. So the first one I've written down here, is there any reason you have not elected to have representation for yourself? One, it just sounds fancy in my opinion. Two, I think that it's a really professional way of saying, so how come you're not listed with an agent? Because I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that. And it's like, okay, that right there is just asking, hey, so are you going to list with me or not? I feel like when you say, is there any reason you haven't elected to have representation for yourself, is it just sounds like you're giving them a little bit more credit than what we actually are giving them. The other way I like to phrase that question is, I see that you're listed for sell by owner. Are you just testing the market, or are you serious about selling? That's what I used to do whenever Zillow had something called Make Me Move. Those were people that didn't necessarily want to sell, and most of the time they were way overpriced. But that's how I started the conversation. I'd be like, hey, you know, I saw that you're listed Make Me Move. Are you serious about selling? Or are you just testing the market? So those are the two ways that I ask if they're working with an agent or not. Questions, comments, emotional outbursts so far? Lovely. Then I'll, you know, basically whatever question or answer they give me to how come you're not working with an agent, that's really the only objection I have to figure out how to overcome with them, because they're probably going to say one of two things. First one is going to be they don't want to give the 3% listing fee. Almost all of them will give 3% to the buyer's agent. I think FSBOs have figured out now we're not even going to bring our buyers there without offering the 3% to the buyer. So they're like, okay, cool, I can do the 3%. I don't want to do the 6%. The second reason is because they've done it before and they want to do it themselves. So especially when I get that answer, I like to say, okay, great. Are you familiar with the GAR contracts? They don't know what GAR means. And typically I don't like to use acronyms because they don't know what it means. So for my clients, I'm not going to do things like that. I say multiple listing service. I don't say MLS. I definitely don't say FMLS because they don't know what that means. However, I do want to make it seem to the FSBO that it is a little bit more complicated and harder for them to understand. So I use a whole lot of acronyms with them. And then I'll ask, everyone has the ability to give a seller's property disclosure. And then depending on the type of property, I would need the lead-based paint, the community association disclosure. They don't know what those things are. And if it's before 1978, they legally have to do a lead-based paint disclosure. So those are really fun to go after because if it was built earlier, because they are going to need your help legally, or there are massive fines associated with that. So I just like to ask a lot of questions. I like to write down all the questions for them. So what questions, ahas, emotional outbursts do we have with for sale by owners? Don't pay for them. They're free on Zillow. You're allowed to be picky because there are thousands. Don't feel like you have to lie to them and say that you have buyers. Anytime I get in the car and spend gas and time going to an appointment, it is not a preview for buyers. I'm not doing that. I'm being very intentional and honest with them. They know that if I show up there, I'm going there for a listing appointment. So if I have to nurture you for 5 weeks in order to get it, then that's what I'm going to do. One did make me cry, but it was happy tears. I'm trying to remember, Mark. I hope I still have this text. Mark said he gave me a compliment, and I remember that I teared up, and then I called Dory because this is the guy that I spent 5 weeks following up with, and then I got 3 pieces of business from him. So give me 1 second. I really want to find it. Any questions while I'm looking for this? Or ahas?
While you're looking it up, do you mind repeating what you say with the GAR contract? So I guess if you have someone and they act like they know it, you just, what do you say? Oh, okay, well, what exactly about the GAR contract do you ask them?
Oh, I say, are you familiar with GAR contracts? And then that they're probably going to say, no, what's a GAR contract? I basically, and I'll kind of go into, well, that's going to be the purchase and sale agreement. And I just kind of rattle off a bunch of things to kind of make them feel like they're like, oh, I don't know what any of this is. Maybe I do need help. Does that make sense? I just kind of try to make
Yes, it makes sense. Sorry, I muted myself because I'm typing, and so anyways, but yes, it makes sense. Thanks.
And Celeste said, do you ever go and knock on their door? Is that too extra? So there was someone who gave a great, who was it? Suzanne, I'm going to mute you real quick because I know you're typing, but I love you so much. Unmute yourself when you want to ask anything. I can't remember his name. Great agent. He does a lot of workshops for KW nationwide. What he will do is he will go drive to a FSBO. He will have the music blaring so loud so that you have to notice that he's parked outside. And this is probably better to do during COVID than it is outside of COVID. But everyone is, kind of telecommuting right now. He will crank up his music, leave his car running. He'll park on the road. He'll look like he's in a hurry. And he has made these packets. They're obnoxious packets of every single disclosure, whether or not the house is built prior to 1978, the lead-based paint is in there. It's everything basically intentionally trying to make them feel like, oh God, what is this? I do need a professional to help me. and he's made sure to put like void or something across it with a watermark because they can't legally use those documents. But anyway, he'll print all them out. It's like a package this thick or so, and he will he'll go knock on their door and say, hey, I have to run to an appointment, but I just wanted, if you have any questions, here's all the documents you're going to need whenever your house goes under contract. Call me if you need anything. And they're like, wait, what? So that's apparently he was getting like several appointments a month with that tactic. Otherwise, no, if you see a sign, go knock, give them your card, ask if there's anything that you can do for them, ask how traffic is. I feel like face-to-face is a little bit better than voice on the phone. Darn, I really wanted to read y'all this text, so I'm sorry that I can't find it. But it was basically saying that he could tell that I respected him as the seller, as well as just gave great value and followed up, and so he was happy to list with me. That doesn't do it justice, but anyway, it made me cry happy tears, and I jumped up and down and I called Dory. Before I move on to expires, questions, anything?
So after you ask the guard questions, is that when you go in for the pre-listing? Like, can we kind of discuss it more? How do you like?
Good question. So where were those questions here? I think the next, and I didn't put this down, but the next thing that I'll do is say, so let me ask you, how long are you going to try to list your home by yourself? And before hiring a professional, I will use tone, etc., to word that in a nice way while being firm, because that can come across really sassy if you don't do it right. So you almost have to be like really coming from contribution, coming from service with a question like that, just because of how it can be taken. And so, yeah, I straight up say to them, hey, look, I would love to help you out. What can I do to show my value as an agent for you? And I will be completely honest, I've never gotten a for sale by owner appointment right then and there at the first phone call. Expireds, yes. For sale by owner, no. I would rather keep our conversation going and check in with them over time. That's just me. But if plenty of agents have. I really want to do call nights again. I think we would be allowed to do them in July now. I really want to do call nights where we can have, maybe we can fit maybe like 10 in the training room. Agents where like from 5 to 7, we used to do make phone calls, and it was mostly, cold calling or calling our sphere. And so then we can actually do them, like live, and y'all could hear them. It's hard to do over Zoom. So perfect. Expireds. This is my jam. I went from for sale by owners because I was really broke and they were free. So I went from for sale by owners to expireds once I started paying for my dialer, and I love them. If I was more scheduled, I know that I would have had so many more listings. I probably spent about 12, maybe 15 times calling expired, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes each. And I listed 6. I got 6 appointments, listed all 6 of them, and I need to go back to doing that. So y'all can be my accountability buddies with that. Expired are even lower hanging fruit. Why do you think that is?
They've already agreed to pay the agency commission.
Thank you. So not only are they like, yep, I want to sell my house, they're also like, yep, with using an agent. Perfect. Thank you. So expireds are going to include, that means that they did not sell during the time that they had the listing period with the agent, so they expired off of the MLS. It's also going to include the people that withdrew from the multiple listing service. You do have to actually pay $25 to take it off the FMLS if it's early before the listing period expires. So that happens for a couple of different reasons. We'll talk about those. I'm gonna stop sharing and go to my notes on these. I love expireds. Okay, so yeah, I've gotten 6 appointments. I've listed all 6 of them. 5 of those were appointments that were made right then on that first phone call, and then one of them did require 2 phone calls before I got the appointment. She was a little skeptical, but she turned out to be one of the nicest people and very appreciative, because we sold it for significantly higher than what it had been listed for, oddly enough. So there's some of the more appreciative people, in my opinion, just because they wanted to get it done. Sometimes for 6 months it sat on the market and it didn't sell. And it's typically one of 2 reasons. So I pay for Mojo for expired numbers and my dialer. Y'all can find them for free through a couple ways. However, the best resource, in my opinion, is going to be getting them from me. So you can always pay for the dialer if you want. You can always go on the tax records, Remine through FMLS, and yet I pay for that for y'all. So send me an email. Let me know what day you're going to call them. And the reason I ask that is because I will send you that list that the morning of, so that you have the most up to date. If you email me asking for expireds today, but you're not going to call till Thursday, you won't get the ones that expired Tuesday and Wednesday. Does that make sense? So if y'all want to call expireds, just let me know, and then literally I write it on my calendar. So expireds to Toya. I literally sent them to her yesterday. So okay, expireds are all about asking questions, coming from contribution, finding out how you can help, and finding out why it didn't sell the first time. So a couple of different reasons it didn't sell. So it expired because it was overpriced. Maybe they had showings, maybe they didn't have showings. They may not have had any offers either, and that is some frustrating stuff. Maybe it had poor marketing, but it was priced properly. They had cell phone photos, maybe the agent didn't hold a single open house, etc. They probably lost a lot of confidence in that agent, or agents in general. And then sometimes they're expired, or they withdrew from the multiple listing service because they want to hold off for a little bit. Mostly it's because of updating, renovations, etc. So if that is the case, still go on the appointment, still get the signature, still make the appointment with the stager, get them in touch with your contractors. I have an electrician, I have a plumber, I have a tile guy, I have a counter guy, etc. Do the updates and projects, and then you relist. Just because they want to hold off for a little bit doesn't mean you can't get the listing and begin your client servicing. So when I call, it's a very simple script. It goes like, hi, this is Katie Staples with Keller Williams Realty. I'm looking for the owner of 123 Main Street. Did I find the right person? And if they're super casual and they're like, yep, that's me, I'll go, great. Hey, is your home still for sale? If they are a little bit less casual whenever they answer, because I really want to kind of go with their disc profile. If they're a little bit less casual, I'll say, awesome. I saw your home expired off of our multiple listing service. Are you going to be putting it back on the market? And then a lot of them, if they've already had agents call at that point, they may hang up, or they may say that they have an agent. It may be a wrong number. So those are your 3 possibilities. If they hang up, well, guess what? They hang up. If it's a wrong number, let's not think that you can't still get a lead from them. You can always find leads places. So I'll still try to get business from them, and yet recognize that some of the numbers that Mojo spits out to be, they're just not accurate. Then there's ones that say, yes, that is my home. Yes, I'm going to be putting it back on the market. Very seldom are they not putting it back on the market. If they already have an agent, or they're reusing the last agent, again, I like to ask questions that elicit a response that I already know that I'm going to get. So if they're relisting with the same agent, oh, you're going to go back with the agent that didn't get it sold the first time? Oof. Oh, it hurts a bit, but I don't care. I want it to hurt a little bit, because guess what? You need to list with Real Estate Kate. If they have an agent, but it's not going to be the same one, or even if it is the same one, I will say, okay, great. Have you signed a listing agreement with them? That does not mean that they have signed a listing agreement with them just because they have an agent. So if they have, Great, good luck with the sale. Do you know anyone else that's looking to buy or sell real estate in the Atlanta area that I can help? If they haven't signed a listing agreement and they just know that they're going to go with somebody, ask for the appointment. Hey, I would love to interview for the position of listing your home. Would Friday at 5 be better or Saturday at 10? Assume the close. They're going to hire an agent. They already did the first time. If they start to continue a conversation with me, as soon as I say, is this the right seller? I'm looking for the seller of 123 Main Street. Are you that person? I pull it up on the multiple listing service and I'll look through it. And most of the time I can tell very quickly why it expired. If I don't know the area that well and I can't tell about the price yet, but it looks like they have professional photos, they were offering the other agent 3%, etc. I'll be like, oh, okay, well, then it's just price. I would say slightly less than half the time, the marketing was terrible. So I want to show y'all an example, actually, because the one that I listed that wound up, this was the only one that took me 2 phone calls to get the appointment. So I didn't even know if I was going to get it, if I'm honest with you, by that point. She was pretty convinced she wanted to use her first agent. I'm going to share my screen and tell me, can y'all see the FMLS?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Oh God, what was it, 2591? Perfect, okay. So this is the listing. So she answers, she goes, yep, that's my house. I don't even think she knew that it had expired. So I'm like, excellent. So then I go in for the kill and I pull it up on the multiple listing service and I'm like, is that a joke? Is that really a joke right now? That's the picture that you're gonna have for your listing. So as soon as I see that, I know exactly why it didn't sell. And I live in Tucker. I live about 10 minutes away from this house. It's a very different kind of area that it's in, but I thought that 190 might be a little low. So I'm looking through the photos and I'm like, oh my God, you have to be joking me. Like, of course your house didn't sell. Like, this doesn't look appealing at all. Like, look, there's stuff just sitting in the middle of this basement room. It looks terrible. So then I'm scrolling while I'm just kind of making rapport with her and asking, you know, how many showings did you get, blah, blah, blah. I scroll down and I go, really? Really, really? So the listing agent, I don't remember how she knew her, but the listing agent said, yeah, I'll list it for 5%. And so instead of doing the noble thing, if you're going to cut your commission, you better keep that cut on your side, okay? So you better offer 3% to the buyer's agent. Like, that's just not fair. It was on the market for 6 months and it didn't sell. Well, fun fact, they actually got I think it was close to full price offer. And then during due diligence, they noticed that there was water coming into the basement. And I only know all of this because I was asking really good questions. And when you ask good, intelligent questions, the other person wants to communicate with you. So she just unleashed all this info on me in the first phone call. They noticed during due diligence that there was water in the basement, in part of the basement. And so the buyer asked for like some $9,000 waterproofing package or whatever. Well, turns out, and so the seller was like, no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a $9,000 fix. It's a cheaper fix. You can take it or leave it. The buyer walked away. And then the house went back on the market and it expired. So on the second phone call, I basically was going over, I list for 6%. And I went through the value that I add, yada, yada. I went through how that was probably part of the reason why it didn't sell before. That, hey, if you're used to getting 3%, why would you show something that's a sixth less than what you were, or what the standard is? So I shared that with her. I shared with her how the photos just weren't helpful, etc. So it was listed at 190 and it expired. Well, we went and we did proper photography on this house. We listed it for $5,000 more. And then we had multiple offers and it wound up selling for 206, but they wanted $5,000 in closing. So she netted 201. So clearly this one wasn't a price thing. This was a marketing thing. The other situation is the water that was coming into the basement, that was because the water was pooling outside the basement door. Let me see if there's a good photo of it. The water was pooling this door. These pavers didn't used to be there, and the water was just sitting here, and it was coming in underneath the door. So we paid $1,500 to have it a French drain put in and have the grading all changed up. $1,500 bucks. She got $11,000 more for the house than what it was listed for previously. So it's not just price. Most of the time it's the marketing and just the knowledge of the agent. So that's my example. Let me see. And then the last little bit on expireds is the questions that I like to ask for them are, why do you think it didn't sell? How many showings did you have? How many offers did you have? When you ask the how many showings did you have question, if they say anything under like 10, they probably didn't get any offers either. So here you come with your sassy questions. If you know they're not going to say that they had any offers, you want to ask it, great, how many offers did you have? Oh, you didn't have a single offer? I want it to hurt. I want you to give me the hurtful answer, and then I want you to know how hurtful you should feel by it. Does that make sense? I'm not the one that's hurting you. I'm just emphasizing the terrible answer that you just gave me. I want them to be surprised that in 6 months, they didn't have a single offer. Does that make sense? It's sassy, but I don't care.
And what was the very first question you asked before you asked how many showings? What was the first one?
Why, I'm typing it now, why do you think it didn't sell? And you know what? They may go off on a tangent on why they hate the agent. They may say a couple different things that might surprise you. Number 2, how many showings did you have? 3. Great. How many offers did you receive? And the last one is, are there any repairs to be done? So those are the questions that I like to ask them. And if I'm being honest with you, these are pretty simple to get. In the 12 to 15 hours that I spent calling expireds, literally while I'm folding laundry, like I put my earbuds in, okay, I'm hands-free. I'm literally, the dialer is going, my computer is right here next to me so I can see when someone answers and I can see the information as it pops up. And I'm just, I'm literally folding laundry half the time or doing dishes. And when I see the green light out of the corner of my eye on the computer screen tell me that someone's picked up, and when I hear them say hello, I put down what I'm doing. Hey, this is Katie Staples with Keller Williams Realty. I'm looking for the owner of 123 Main Street, please. And just go right into it. It was amazing. And to have gotten 6 listings, I'm kicking myself that I didn't keep at that and keep on that schedule. So I'm just going to kick Doll into doing it because I know that you can be successful with it. So my suggestions to y'all is try it out for free first. I pay for Mojo. I'm more than happy to send you an Excel spreadsheet of the address, the name of the person associated with the address, the phone number, and that might be all the stuff that you get. You'll have to look it up for when was it listed, what was it listed for, etc. How long was it listed? You'll have to see that on the multiple listing service. But please let me send them to you for free. That's part of the fee that you pay to coaching, is paying for things like that. Try them out. If you decide that this may be a good avenue for you, that's when I'll be a little bit more suggestive on getting a dialer, just so that you can, crunch out the numbers really quickly. Spend your money wisely. My other tip is most agents are making these phone calls from 9 to 11, Monday through Friday. I only ever called mostly Sunday afternoons. All of my appointments came from Sunday afternoon. And I did evenings once or twice because other agents aren't. It's the same for sale by owner. For sale by owner and expireds, I really like to do that. If I weren't doing an open house, or I would do it after the open house. I really should have done it yesterday. I'm kind of kicking myself if I'm honest with you. There's such low-hanging fruit. So, Jamie says, thanks, you're so welcome. Celeste says, thanks, you're very welcome. What questions do you have? How can I help y'all out? I better get a whole bunch of requests for expired phone numbers for Sunday and Saturday. Oh, one last thing. So this is just tip from Will Kate to you. You look at a July calendar. That's August. Bing, the last day of the month, bing, bing, is a Friday. What do you think of all the calendar days? What do you think is the most common day that homes expire? Bueller? Okay, fun fact. It's
Last day of the month.
There you go. Thank you, Suzanne. Yes, the last day of the month. So if you're telling me that most agents don't call on weekends and the last day of the month is Friday, July 31st, what does that mean? That means if y'all don't have a whole bunch of requests for expired phone numbers for Saturday, August 1st, what are we doing? I'm gonna put it, you do your business, whatever you want. We don't operate real estate, Kate, and yet I'll be calling expires that day. So you better start practicing your scripts because I'm very good and I love a good, healthy competition. What questions do y'all have? What else can I help y'all with? I'm so glad. I saw a lot of y'all's faces for the entirety of today. So thank you. I think it's Cindy, Beth, Celeste, Tiffany, Jamie and Eugene maybe were on like the whole time. So thanks y'all. I hope that you learned a whole lot.
And I'm sorry, maybe this is a repeat for a lot of other people, especially if they've been on these expired calls before, but I've only been on one before. But okay, so you said something about there's a more casual and a more formal way you said it. You know, did I find the owner of, I'm looking for the owner of 123 Main Street, did I get the right person? And then you said like how you address them when they're more formal versus more casual. Will you repeat that for me? And I'm going to mute myself when I type.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, so
I don't blow you up.
I say, hi, this is Katie Staples with Keller Williams Realty. I'm looking for the owner of 123 Main Street. And if they're super casual, I'll say, great, hey, is your home still for sale? If they're not, and I can tell this by how you say hello and how you answer that first question. If they're not, I'll say, awesome. I saw that the house expired off of our multiple listing service. Are you going to be putting it back on the market? You'll phrase it however you want. These are real estate Kate's tips. So. Love it. Love it, love it. I appreciate y'all so much. I love that y'all want to learn. Muffins, I love all your love in the chat. Thank you very, very much. You're all awesome. And if you haven't scheduled your next one-on-one, I'm going to call you. So you might as well just beat me to it. Okay. All right. You guys rock. Have a lovely rest of your day. Go kill it. And I better get some requests for some expired phone numbers. And that looks like it's an email. It's not a call or a text. Please, please, please. Okay. Love y'all. Bye. Y'all are so welcome.